Chapter 141, Coup Under the Sea. The court was not blindly intent on destroying Gotham. They had a plan. Recently, they had gained a new ally, Jervis Tetch, the Mad Hatter. Tetch had come to Gotham looking for his sister Alice, but Fish had been stalling him. Growing impatient, Tetch contacted the court in secret. Catherine of the Court of Owls gave up trying to trace how he had found their lines. There had been leaks she could not plug. The court felt, for the first time in centuries, like a sieve. Still, Catherine was intensely interested in the information Tetch brought. Alice's blood, he said, had a terrifying property. Those exposed to it grew increasingly extreme in mind and deed. Their latent physical potential was amplified, their bodies strengthened, and their personalities twisted into something violent and irrational. The Talons found Alice and ran tests. The results confirmed Tetch's claims. The court's plan crystallized: distill Alice's blood into an airborne toxin and drown Gotham in frenzy. That plan did not remain secret. The court's rebels and several of its leaders quietly passed the intelligence to Ming. After months of watching from the shadows, the rebels had concluded the court's era was over. Rebuilding Gotham promised enormous gains, but Ming's presence blocked any overt step toward annihilation. The rebels suspected he had other allies inside the court besides them, so to avoid alienating either side, they chose to attach themselves to Ming fully. Progress on weaponizing Alice's blood, however, stalled without Hugo Strange. Ra's al Ghul's assessment was blunt. It would likely take months. That pace suited Ming. Months would give him time to bring Diana to see Kid Loki and to let Gotham Group continue to grow. Gotham Group's expansion had been explosive. The new companies Ming had launched were already leaders in their niches. They only needed time and experience to become dominant. With Wayne Group's backing, Ming decided to move into a new and highly profitable field: arms manufacturing. He had inherited a trove of Stark Industries weapons tech. As Gotham Group's influence grew, there was nothing to prevent them from entering that market. He expected Diana to object. Themyscira had little patience for human warfare and for anyone who profited from it. But Diana said nothing. For the past month, she had preferred simply to sit and look at him, as if trying to make up for the 70 years she'd missed. She spent long, contented minutes gazing at Ming until he laughed and teased her. "Diana, tell me about Queen Atlanta," Ming said one afternoon. "I heard she's in trouble." Diana's reverie broke. He patted her head. She settled against him and answered, "Yes. My mother has known her for decades. Atlanta was forced into a political marriage, and then she escaped from Atlantis." "Wait," Ming interrupted, puzzled. "Who was she supposed to marry?" "A great noble of Atlantis," Diana said. Ming frowned. Atlantis was the strongest of the 7 undersea kingdoms. For the queen of its most powerful nation to be forced into a domestic political marriage was odd. It suggested factional defeat, maybe worse. "Atlantis is messy," Diana said. "Some want expansion, others want peace with the surface. Atlanta belonged to the peace faction." "So where is she now?" he asked. "Maine, Mercy Harbor." Diana's voice tightened. "A lighthouse keeper rescued her. They fell in love and had a son, Arthur Curry." Ming let a small smile play across his face out of sight. "Atlanta trusted my mother," Diana went on. "She heard Atlantis was close to finding her. To protect Arthur and his father, she had to leave. Before she disappeared, she asked me. She wanted me to protect Arthur and his father for a while, to keep them safe. She said she had a way to make Atlantis stop looking for Arthur, but it would take time." Ming understood what Atlanta's plan must have been: return to Atlantis, marry the king, and produce a prince to reposition the line of succession. He cupped Diana's face. "How old is Arthur now?" "Almost 2. That's old enough that any major congenital issues would probably have shown themselves." He paused. "But an Atlantean-born queen and a human father, could that union cause problems?" Diana considered it. Atlanteans were adapted to the sea with extraordinary gifts and some limits. Many commoners could not survive long on land without aid. Atlanta was noble blood. A child born of an Atlantean queen and a human man was unprecedented. "Different roses bred together can make more beautiful blooms, or ruin both," she said softly. "Still," Ming said, reassuring, "at 2 years old, Arthur is probably fine. But if there are hidden issues, we should check." Paradise Island had no technology to run the tests. Atlantis might, if the king permitted it, but the current regime would never allow the queen's illegitimate son to be examined unless they were indifferent to his fate. Diana looked helpless for a moment, then thought of Li Ming's resources. Li, is there a way in the human world? She asked. I have one of the most advanced genetic labs on the planet, he said. It may be able to screen Arthur for any problems. I can arrange it, though I can't promise the tests will be definitive. Then we must try. Diana reached for her coat. Li Ming stopped her gently. I'll arrange it first, he said. Okay, Diana brightened. I'll tell Selena. Genuine warmth lit Diana's face when Li Ming opened a portal to Indian Hill, the lab facilities he used, right in front of her. It was a small gesture, but to Diana it felt intimate and practical all at once. She rested her hand on his arm and smiled, grateful and relieved. Chapter 142, A Checkup for Kid Loki. Gotham was in New Jersey, not far from Maine. Li Ming and Diana arrived quickly at Mercy Harbor. Maine sat at the northern edge of the country. Its climate was bitterly cold, but that mattered little to either of them. Arthur's father was Tom Curry, and the lighthouse he kept was called Curry Lighthouse, a family duty passed down for generations. Tom's house was easy to find, not far from the light. Atlanta? Diana called. Diana! Atlanta answered as she hurried out. Li Ming parked beside the cabin. Diana stepped over and embraced Atlanta, who had heard the commotion. Though Atlanta was an old friend of Diana's mother, she was actually younger than Diana, and so Diana used her given name. Tom Curry followed, a very ordinary, down-to-earth middle-aged man, carrying the curly-haired boy everyone called Kid Loki. He gave Li Ming a friendly nod and smile. Plain-spoken and decent, Tom reminded Li Ming of someone who earned the respect of Atlantis because he deserved it. Diana introduced them. This is my boyfriend, Li Ming. Just call me Li, Li said with a smile. Atlanta had wondered who Diana had brought. When she heard the name, she blinked in surprise and asked, Rose? Yes, Diana admitted. At once, Atlanta relaxed and ushered them into the cozy, modest house. After a few pleasantries, Diana brought up Arthur's health, and the mood in the room tightened. Tom wasn't formally educated, but he understood the gravity of Diana's concern. He loved his son fiercely and was panicked. Atlanta was no less worried. Though once a queen, she took no risks where her child's safety was concerned, especially given the ocean's dangers and its history of mutations. She remembered the Trench, one of Atlantis's kingdoms, whose people had become monsters. Orm certainly won't agree to let Arthur be examined in Atlantis, Atlanta said. Having defected from Atlantis, she had few confidants left. None could risk sneaking the queen's illegitimate son back into the city. If there's nothing showing right now, Arthur is most likely safe for the moment, Li Ming said to comfort them. Serious problems that emerge with age don't happen frequently. Atlanta and Tom's brows knitted deeper. Diana spoke up. Li Ming has a very advanced research base in the human world. Before she could finish, Atlanta's eyes lit up. Human technology might be limited compared to Atlantis, but something was better than nothing. Li looked concerned. I worry that our tech may not find anything and could only delay proper treatment, he said. Don't worry, Atlanta replied quickly. Whatever you can do will be a blessing. We're already grateful. Tom nodded in earnest. Diana, thank you. Li no longer hesitated. He took a breath. All right, we'll do our best. He touched his sling ring and drew a circle. A spark-blinking portal opened in the living room, making Tom stare. Where is that? He asked. Gotham. The research facility is through there, Li answered. Places that left a deep impression were easier to open portals to, so Gotham came easily to him. Tom slapped a hand to his forehead, then pointed at Li. Gotham Group? Li nodded. Atlanta looked puzzled. Tom explained. Li Ming, chairman of Gotham Group. I should have remembered the name. The signal tower on the mountain behind the lighthouse belongs to Gotham Group. Ever since they became our provider, making and receiving calls here has been so much easier. Atlanta understood, and both parents gained confidence. Li Ming hadn't counted on that little connection, but it helped. They stepped through the portal and arrived at the research site in Indian Hill, Hugo Strange's old territory. This was not the organization's main facility. The main base held projects too sensitive to show. Li led them through corridors and labs, explaining as they walked. This facility focuses on human repair and genetics. It's already helped more than 20 patients recover from conditions that left them depleted. That's impressive, Tom said. They entered a ward full of equipment and busy lab coats. Woo, Lee called. A white-coated man with an Asian face and a small mustache came over. In Indian Hill, there had only been one person who fit that description. Hugo Strange had faked his death, assumed a new identity, altered his appearance, and now operated under the name Professor Henry Wu. This is Professor Henry Wu, Lai said. He's the best clinician and lead researcher here. Please have him examine young Arthur. Hearing that, Atlanta and Tom treated Professor Wu with the utmost respect. Lee wasn't exaggerating. Wu's medical skill bordered on the miraculous. He'd brought people back from the brink when others could not. At this new facility, he'd finally found sustained resources and test subjects, and Lai had given him broad latitude in his work. Wu was grateful and cooperative. Professor Wu ran Arthur through a battery of tests, x-rays, measurements, blood work, and more. During the examinations, he pulled several lab staff aside for a long private discussion, which made Diana and the others nervous. After a while, Wu returned with the results. Arthur's body shows no obvious disease, he reported. Atlanta visibly relaxed. But his physiology is very different from a normal child's. I've never seen anything like it, Wu added, frowning. Atlanta hesitated, unsure how much to reveal about Arthur's heritage. Wu, this stays confidential. Lai interjected, easing the moment. Atlanta shot him a grateful look. Understood, Wu said. I recommend regular checkups. If anything develops in the future, frequent monitoring will catch it early. Tom and Atlanta exchanged worried glances. Tom looked troubled. He was only a lighthouse keeper and could not afford ongoing medical costs. Lai saw it and stepped forward. Don't worry, he said. You're Diana's friends, so you're my friends. I'll cover all the expenses. Diana looked at Lee, and light filled her eyes. Chapter 143, Setting Up the Justice League. Hugo's so-called routine physical was, of course, an excuse. Arthur was perfectly healthy, better than ever. Diana and the others didn't need to know the details. What mattered was how valuable Arthur would be to Li Ming. Arthur would grow into the future Aquaman, the undisputed ruler of the seas. In the ocean, he could lift 10,000-ton submarines and swim at speeds approaching Mach 9, roughly 3,000 meters per second. He could breathe underwater, communicate with marine life, and possessed superhuman physiology. Aquaman's title wasn't just about raw strength. It meant becoming the king of Atlantis and uniting the oceans. In terms of influence and power, no one on Earth would truly rival him. Li Ming couldn't let that potential slip away. Having Arthur come in for regular checkups would give him a steady supply of blood and other samples for analysis, and it would let him build a relationship with the child. Build a relationship being generous phrasing. Arthur was only 2 years old, and Li Ming had time to educate him to be on his side. Then, in the future, Li Ming would have free reign over the seas, just as the Wayne Group did on land. Hugo, for his part, wasn't bluffing. He brought professional, detailed data that impressed Atlanta. Even in Atlantis, there were few with such deep research into human physiology. Hugo was pleased. Li Ming had promised him interesting organisms to study, and that promise had been fulfilled quickly. Of course, Li Ming strictly forbade using Arthur's blood or genes for experiments, so Hugo limited himself to a standard checkup. Li Ming's control over the research base was absolute. If he wanted to, he could tell exactly how many bites of food Hugo had taken that day. It wasn't an exaggeration. After the examination, Li Ming took Arthur and the others back to Mercy Harbor. Tom Curry and Atlanta, grateful to Li Ming and Diana, enthusiastically prepared a seafood meal. Tom did most of the cooking. Atlanta helped. Tom's cooking was surprisingly good. Everything tasted fresh and perfectly seasoned. Li Ming and Diana stayed 2 more days. After all the time spent in a big city like Gotham, the seaside air felt wonderful. During their stay, Li Ming worked on bonding with little Arthur. The boy warmed to him quickly and learned to call him Uncle Li Ming. Toddlers forget easily, but Tom was deeply grateful, and Hugo had praised Li Ming's kindness during the examination, enough to ensure Arthur would remain close. Leisure is always short. One afternoon, just after lunch, as Li Ming and Diana were preparing to stroll along the beach, Li Ming's spider sense prickled. He didn't speak. Source power surged from his hand, and an enormous Kamartaj spell shield snapped into being. No sooner had it formed than a massive energy blast tore through the outer wall and slammed into the shield. Judging by the power drain, the attack wasn't trivial. Diana and Atlana reacted immediately. Diana stood beside Li Ming, ready for combat. Atlana moved to protect Tom and Arthur. Through the shattered wall, a soldier in sleek white armor strode in, holding an energy gun. He paused at the shimmer of Li Ming's shield and kept his distance. "Queen Atlana, King Orvax orders you to return to Atlantis immediately," the soldier announced. 4 identical soldiers followed, entering from front and back and hemming Atlana in. The atmosphere snapped taut. Li Ming stayed calm. It was only a 5-man squad facing the exaggerated combination of Iron Man meets Spider-Man, Wonder Woman, and the Queen of Atlantis. He felt a flash of sympathy for them. This was enough to overwhelm them individually, never mind together. He watched their energy guns with interest. The armor mattered little. It was mainly to let Atlantean soldiers breathe on land. The real novelty was their ammunition. Atlantis's energy weapons converted water into energy bullets. Add a little water, and the gun fired high-power rounds. Li Ming liked that technology. He was always collecting useful things. As the soldiers closed in, Li Ming and Diana moved. Li Ming's punch sent one soldier flying through the house, and Diana quickly neutralized 2 others. Atlana, whose strength exceeded that of ordinary Atlanteans by an order of magnitude, handled the remaining 2 soldiers without trouble. The soldier Li Ming had knocked out scrambled to the sea and tried to swim away to report back, but Diana reached for him. Li Ming restrained her. He opened a portal on the spot, pulled a small, low-yield freezing bomb from Fly's lab through it, then opened a second portal over the distant ocean and hurled the bomb through. The explosion encased the fleeing soldier in a block of ice, and the frozen body fell into the sea. Solved. Li Ming clapped, calm as ever. Unseen by the others, another portal quietly swallowed the frozen soldier and delivered him to Hugo's research base. Atlantean specimens were invaluable. Li Ming hadn't wanted to kill the man outright. "Thank you," Atlana said, gratitude plain in her voice. Though the immediate threat was over, everyone there understood that next time it might be the full Atlantean force. "Tom, I'm sorry. I can only protect Arthur and you if I go back," Atlana said, fighting the tug to stay. Tom didn't want to be separated, but he understood the realities. Li Ming suggested that, if Tom agreed, Arthur and his father could move to Gotham, and Li Ming would find Tom a job so he could keep caring for Arthur. Tom couldn't bear to leave the lighthouse his family had kept for generations and planned to stay at Mercy Harbor. In tears, Atlana and Tom went to the pier. "When it's safe, I'll return," she promised. "One day at sunrise, we will reunite," Tom replied. They embraced and kissed, clinging to each other as if to delay the moment of parting. Before she slipped beneath the waves, Atlana pressed both hands to Li Ming's and Diana's in thanks. Diana would eventually return to Paradise Island, but Li Ming's influence in the human world was substantial, enough to help protect Arthur and Tom. "I will always remember your kindness, Li. Atlantis will too," Atlana said. Li Ming nodded. She dived, and in moments she vanished into the sea. Tom vowed to bring Arthur to Gotham often, an arrangement Li Ming welcomed. "Arthur will be happy in Gotham," Li Ming said. "I have a younger brother named Bruce Wayne. They'll get along." He wasn't speaking idly. Li Ming intended to cultivate relationships in advance. Penguin helped him control Gotham's underworld and the Gotham Group, but the future belonged to superheroes, and Li Ming planned to shape that future. A Justice League would inevitably rise among the DC heroes, and Li Ming decided to be the architect behind it. Like the Wayne Group on the corporate front, he would let Batman run the Justice League as his public face. Getting Bruce to befriend Aquaman early would pay dividends later. Anyone who dared oppose Li Ming would soon find themselves on the receiving end of a righteous coalition. Chapter 144, The Reincarnator Castration Plan. 3 months passed quickly, and Gotham's situation became increasingly polarized. Most of the districts under the Gotham Gang's control were orderly. Citizens who paid their dues could live without fear, and if trouble arose, they could turn to the Gotham Gang or the municipal authorities for help. The neighborhoods controlled by Fish and Jerome, by contrast, were a mess, chaotic and rife with violent crime. Yet oddly, That chaos did not damage Li Ming's standing, the Gotham gang, or Penguin's prestige. If anything, it pushed more people toward them. When Penguin publicly accused Gotham's elite families of propping up Fish and Jerome and preventing the municipality from solving the problem, a swath of those families distanced themselves from the gangs. Of the remaining families who stayed silent, most were court members, and fingers pointed straight at the Court of Owls. Jerome's momentum was especially dangerous. He had repeatedly targeted 4 old Gotham families, and his follower count swelled. Whenever Gordon tried to make arrests, members of the Joker gang stepped forward to take the blame. Jerome issued the orders, his subordinates carried them out, and at the station they wouldn't betray him. That protection kept Jerome safe, so far. He had also recruited a new ally, Jonathan Crane, the Scarecrow. Crane's fear gas proved extremely useful, and, inspired by Crane's work, Jerome commissioned a mad laughter gas that could warp the mind, drive inhalers into a frenzy, and strip away inhibitions. On the hero's side, Arthur Curry's bloodline, based on the blood analysis Li Ming ran, was weak because Arthur was young. It offered Li Ming no meaningful benefit yet. But Li Ming wasn't worried. He could keep taking Arthur's blood over time. Bruce Wayne's crime fighting was going smoother now. After a few successful midnight outings, Bruce returned unharmed enough times that Alfred eased up. For Bruce's birthday, Li Ming gave him a special gift, a full-body, bulletproof combat suit made with black tech from the John Wick world. The Gotham Group's new defense subsidiary had quickly brought a flagship bulletproof suit to market nationwide, but the public model was a stripped-down, old-tech version kept deliberately 1 or 2 tech levels ahead of the real world. The suit Li Ming gave Bruce, however, was top of the line, a full combat suit with a half-face mask. This would be Bruce's first bat suit when he finally became Batman. The suit amplified Bruce's confidence. He still got hurt sometimes, and Alfred hated seeing him risk himself. But Bruce had tasted the thrill of fighting crime and couldn't stop. Ra's al Ghul was quietly pleased. His Dark Knight was finally on his way. But he also complained that Bruce was soft-hearted, letting criminals go at the last instant and exposing himself to needless injury. Ra's new mission was to temper Bruce into the Dark Knight he envisioned. Li Ming returned to single life as Diana had to go back. The arena competition on Paradise Island was starting, and by tradition, she had to attend. Before leaving, Diana revealed something important. The next time they met, she said she would not recognize Li Ming, and she hoped he would come find her anyway. That meant if Li Ming returned to this world again, his next stop would be 1918. Li Ming promised he would find her. At first, his attraction to Diana had been carnal and opportunistic, but after months together, he had come to love her. She was understanding, gentle, and considerate. He meant it when he vowed to return. Li Ming had not been idle these months. The Gotham Group required constant attention, especially the new companies for which he still needed to make key decisions. His frequent public appearances had established him in Gotham as a de facto king, and his prestige climbed to its peak. With the Gotham gang firmly in control, an S-rank evaluation was all but guaranteed. The resources flowing to him after the group's foundation multiplied quickly. Secretly, Li Ming set up an Iron Man armor production line to manufacture stripped-down Mark II suits. After he returned to the reincarnation space, these would all convert into his points. He also built a platform to help don the armor. Putting on a Mark II was cumbersome, and bundling the two together would sell better. For now, he produced 3 complete sets, since the most difficult part was material conversion. The materials used even in the watered-down version counted as high-end for this era. To control costs, Li Ming had Friday fabricate the raw materials from scratch. It was slower, but far cheaper. The other major component was the arc reactor. Li Ming told Friday to downscale the sustainable reactor technology and replace it with a consumable reactor battery. Once expended, the battery would need to be replaced. The suit wouldn't accept other power inputs. Li Ming still had some conscience. Beyond the basic weapons, he equipped the Mark II with a Gatling gun and a limited AI. Yes, Edith, but a neutered version with minimal computation. Would the armor be hacked? Li Ming didn't care. His target market was low-tier reincarnators. High-end reincarnators wouldn't bother with this tech, But for bottom-tier users, like the kid he'd seen earlier with a lighter, the Mark II would be a miracle. He planned to price it affordably, cheaper than exchanging points for bloodlines or skills, relying on volume rather than margin. With his smuggling privilege, his actual cost was close to zero: high volume, high profit. Li Ming's goal was simple: dominate the bottom tier of the reincarnation space. Most players in that bracket could afford the suit. Even if they burned all their points on personal upgrades, the power gains were limited. In direct missions, reincarnators with Iron Man armor would utterly crush ordinary users. To avoid falling behind, more players would buy in. But the armor was an external boost. Buyers themselves didn't fundamentally improve. Li Ming planned to keep releasing incremental, enhanced versions of the suit, continually harvesting points from buyers. Even players who meant to use the armor only as a transition would find themselves trapped. They'd first have to survive encounters with opponents wearing Li Ming's increasingly advanced armor. Over time, the bottom tier would atrophy. Without new recruits rising up, high-tier reincarnators would be harder to replace. That would leave Li Ming facing fewer formidable enemies in future cycles. Other spaces would also weaken. All of this rested on his production capacity, but Li Ming was confident. No matter how many bought the suits, the overall effect would be to neuter the bottom-tier population of the reincarnation space, and that suited him just fine. Chapter 145, Bruce wavered. The Court of Owls had finally perfected their gas. Since the raw material was Alice's blood, they called it Alice gas. It would still take time to produce enough to devastate Gotham, but the court had already started planning how to profit from rebuilding the city after they unleashed it. Li Ming had his own contingency ready. He planned to intercept whatever they made. He would not let the court release the gas. But there was so much of it that it would be a shame to waste. Better to take it to other mission worlds and use it there. In any case, he intended to make sure the court paid. At the same time, Ra's al Ghul began to set his own plan in motion. The ancient blade said to be capable of killing him, the weapon known as the Demon's Head, had finally been found. At a Gotham Group auction, Bruce had bid on it and won. Li Ming had joked that the blade looked interesting, and then, unexpectedly, he had to leave in a hurry. Bruce, puzzled, took the blade to the museum and handed it to Dr. Winslow for appraisal. The appraisal did not go as expected. A man in exquisite clothing burst into the gallery intending to seize the blade. Dr. Winslow threw the weapon to Bruce, and in the same instant was strangled in front of him. The intruder grabbed for the blade, then stopped, staring at Bruce. "You are Bruce Wayne?" the man said. Bruce's heart hammered. One hand slid to his pocket, and he dialed the Gotham Police Department with his free hand. "This is the Gotham Museum. Someone's been murdered," he shouted into the phone. Officers were dispatched immediately. He needed to stall. "Who are you?" he called to the intruder. The man was oddly cooperative. "Ra's al Ghul," he answered. Bruce kept time. "What are you here for?" he asked. The man indicated the blade in the dead curator's hands. "That blade, it's mine. No matter whose it is, you murdered him. I won't hand it over." Bruce sized up his opponent and realized he had no chance in a fight. He started to back toward the doorway, but the man made no move, as if hesitant, afraid. Was he afraid of me? Bruce wondered, glancing at the blade in his hands. Or afraid of this thing? His phone vibrated. Li Ming's voice burst over the line. "Bruce, I finally found the person behind the court." Even in the middle of the crisis, Bruce could not help asking who. Li Ming's voice rushed on. "According to captured court members, it's Ra's al Ghul." Bruce's blood ran cold. Ra's al Ghul? The man before him? "He's a monster who has lived for over 2,000 years, Li Ming continued. "There's a prophecy. Only someone from the Wayne bloodline can kill him. He sent the court to assassinate your family." Bruce was stunned. "But the court coveted the Wayne group, so they never finished the job. Now Ra's knows you survived, so he's come back to Gotham. Be careful." Li Ming's tone tightened. "And the blade, the prophecy says only the right person wielding it can kill Ra's. Keep it safe. That's called the Demon's Head." Ra's interrupted, pointing at the blade and stepping closer. "You killed my parents." Bruce's chest tightened. Even after 2 years, the memory of that night still hurt. "I didn't kill your parents," he said. "The court did. So you are the leader of the Court of Owls? The court acts on your orders?" Yes. Then there's no difference, Bruce answered, cold. Roz fell silent for a moment, perhaps guessing Li Ming had tried to provoke him by blaming Bruce for the deaths. It suited both their plans, and he made no argument. For Bruce, everything snapped into place. The killer he had hunted for 2 years stood before him. Holding the demon's head with both hands, Bruce fixed his gaze on Roz. The rage that had been building for years rose like a tide. "What are you thinking?" Roz asked as he advanced. "Do you intend to kill me?" "Of course," Bruce breathed. Roz smiled. "You cannot kill me. If you do, you will become a criminal, just like me." The words cut through Bruce like cold water. Killing would be a crime, and he did not want to become the sort of person who muddied his hands with murder. For the first time since the blade had been thrown into his grasp, his certainty wavered. He did not notice the flicker of disappointment in Ra's eyes. At that moment, 2 Gotham police officers arrived. "Mr. Wayne," one called. "Step back. Leave it to us," the other said, signaling Bruce to put down the blade. Bruce, trusting the force, let the officers take over. They moved to restrain Roz, who offered no resistance. As they led him past Bruce toward a patrol car, Roz turned and said, his voice low and mocking, "I knew it, Bruce Wayne. You're a hypocrite. You want to eradicate evil, but refuse to get your hands dirty. But they," Roz looked at the 2 officers, "they can't kill me." Bruce felt a chill of dread and lunged to warn the men. The warning came too late. At the patrol car, Roz exploded in movement. One officer drew his pistol and fired. Bullets bounced off as if they had struck nothing. In a single fluid motion, Roz seized the officer's throat. "No!" Bruce shouted. The second officer tried to help, but was killed just as quickly. Roz moved like a shadow, quick and efficient. He reached for the demon's head. Bruce dove forward, but Roz was already nearly there. Bang! Bang! 2 shots cracked the air. "Bruce, over here!" Li Ming had arrived at last. 2 rapid shots from him surprised Roz and made him stagger. Seeing fresh resistance, Roz fled into the night without another word. Bruce stood frozen over the bodies of the 2 dead officers. When Li Ming reached him, Bruce collapsed into his arms. "Li, what do I do?" he asked, voice breaking. "We are now entering the final part of this Gotham World storyline. Please support. All kinds of requests. Anything. I'm not picky. Ha! Charge 33, Chapter 146. The Gotham Destruction Plan begins. After Bruce finished recounting the night's events, Li Ming fell uncharacteristically silent for a long time. "Bruce," he finally said, "do you remember the night you told me you wanted to be the brightest star, to protect others so they wouldn't suffer what we did?" Bruce nodded. That was the night they'd first met, back when Li Ming was still a child, and not yet the ruler of Gotham. "How do you want to protect them?" Li Ming pressed. Bruce hesitated. "The law?" "Bruce, Gotham's law isn't omnipotent," Li Ming replied. "When the law can't reach, think of Galavan." He listed example after example. "And when the law can be enforced, think of Jerome." Bruce felt a chill. He knew Jerome's history well. Everyone knows about the things Jerome has done, but there have always been people taking the fall for him. Without hard evidence, the police can't lock him up. And tonight's, this freak who bullets don't even stop, there's no way to catch him. Bruce, there are always places the law cannot reach. Li Ming reached out and gripped Bruce by the shoulders. At times like that, someone must step forward. If someone stepped out and killed Jerome, and in doing so prevented so many others from being harmed, do you think that person would just be a hated criminal? He asked. Bruce didn't know how to answer. Li Ming continued, calm and certain. He would be a criminal in the eyes of the law, yes, but at the same time, he would be a hero. The conviction Bruce had clung to since childhood seemed to crack. Li Ming's real-world examples cut through him. He was right. Then Li Ming said something that made Bruce's heart stutter. "I'm a criminal too, Bruce." "No," Bruce blurted. Li Ming shook his head. "I have killed. The expansion of the Gotham gang didn't come without blood, but I don't regret it because I brought Gotham a stability it hadn't seen in centuries. If I hadn't done it, no one else could have. Because I know I killed to protect more people." He spoke with a hard, unwavering acceptance. Everything requires sacrifice. To uphold the justice I believe in, I'm willing to bear those sins. What Li Ming meant, of course, was sacrificing other people's lives. The confession hit Bruce hard. At 14, he was young but unusually clear-minded, He understood the logic and felt its dangerous appeal. If he hadn't hesitated and killed Ra's al Ghul when he did, 2 pursuing officers might not have lost their lives. Bruce had thought of that before. If the goal was just, could dark methods be justified? Li Ming patted his shoulder to steady him. None of this is for you yet. Go home and rest. Something big is coming to Gotham. It's best you stay inside. Was it foolish for me to go out and fight crime now? Bruce asked suddenly. How could it be? Taking action for justice is admirable, Li Ming answered. But I don't want you killing people casually. When you're not ready, don't take lives. Otherwise, you risk falling into an abyss. Be absolutely certain the person deserves it. Bruce nodded. He recognized the pattern in Li Ming's thinking. He was trying to shape Bruce into his ideal of a dark knight. Li Ming believed that once Bruce abandoned conscience for a purpose, he would remain steady. Those who waver were the ones who fell. Whether Bruce would follow that path was another matter. Li Ming had not been speaking without reason. The court had stepped up production of a deadly gaseous weapon and was already scouting release sites. Gordon had learned from his uncle Frank that the court was manufacturing weapons and planning to destroy Gotham. Frank had been murdered for what he knew. Gordon had shared that intelligence with Li Ming and Penguin. The court's efforts intensified until the whole city felt like it teetered on the edge of a storm. Bruce spent the next several days holed up in Wayne Manor, sifting through case files. He found that before Penguin had taken office, criminals getting away with crimes was the norm. After Penguin's election, the situation improved, but many still escaped full punishment because evidence was lacking. Gotham gang members rarely appeared on those lists unless their crimes were publicly exposed, and when that happened, the gang would clean house to protect itself. Bruce found himself thinking of an old, dangerous idea. When the law cannot deliver justice, private revenge can start to feel legitimate, even noble. He understood the logic in theory. In practice, he still found it hard to act. Then Selina appeared with terrible news. Alfred had been taken by Ra's al Ghul. He told us to come alone with a knife, or he'll kill the butler, she said, panic in her voice. What should we do? Should we tell lie? Selina knew how much Alfred meant to Bruce, but she also feared that involving others would risk constant surveillance and make Alfred's life more precarious. Bruce forced himself to think clearly. We can't tell lie, he said. If we involve anyone else, they'll put us under surveillance. Alfred will be in danger. I'll go with you, Selina insisted. No, Bruce replied. You stay here. If I'm not back by tomorrow morning, then notify Lee. She had no choice but to agree. Bruce changed into the combat suit Li Ming had given him, covered it with a trench coat to conceal it, and set out for the address Ra's had provided. Meanwhile, Commissioner Gordon faced his own nightmare. Jerome, leading the Joker gang, had taken a music festival hostage. Among the kidnapped were high-ranking officials, police officers, Gordon's ex-girlfriend Xiao Lai, and a man who looked exactly like Jerome, Jerome's twin, Jeromea Valeska, an engineer who'd had a successful life. On stage, Jerome ranted that his brother had used cunning in childhood to secure a good life, leaving Jerome to rot in the circus. This, he claimed, was why he'd become what he was. Gordon had no interest in Jerome's backstory right then. He wanted to save the hostages. Jerome giggled, taunting him. You can't save Gotham, Commissioner Gordon. After today, Gotham won't need a police force. Ha 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 ha! Gordon's blood ran cold. Had the court's plan already begun? Jim, someone shouted. The Joker gang has surrounded Mayor Penguin. He's giving a speech. Brock rushed up with another bulletin. With every new piece of news, Gordon felt his stomach drop further. Today, it seemed, would become a day Gotham would never forget. Chapter 147. Mayor Penguin's shining moment. Is anyone helping Penguin? Where are the Gotham gang members? Jim Gordon barked. Penguin was, by far, Gotham's best mayor, and Jim didn't want anything to happen to him. Hey, Jim Gordon, Jerome shouted from the stage as he grabbed the microphone. You've got 2 choices, he paced theatrically. 1, save your ex-girlfriend. I can tell you still love her, and she still loves you. How awkward. He made a mocking pout. The other, save Mayor Penguin. Jerome mimicked Penguin's waddling a few times and laughed. Joker gang members are everywhere. Anyone else trying to rescue him won't make it in time. But I've given orders. Only you can pass through without being stopped. He leaned close to someone beside him, cupping that man's face as if saying goodbye. Goodbye, brother. The line felt doubled. On the surface, he spoke of death, but there was a hint he meant something else. He promised his brother that whoever was left behind would be transformed into a newer version of him. Perhaps we'll never meet again, he whispered into the man's ear. I'll always be with you, in your ear, in your heart. You are me. Jerome's laugh trailed off as he stalked away and once more called toward the crowd. Hey, Jim Gordon, I'm setting off fireworks on the cathedral roof. Hurry up and choose. Both scenes are being broadcast live. Jim's stomach dropped. The cathedral, if Jerome meant what he said, the explosion there could be catastrophic. Brock, do we have anyone else to send? He asked. No, Brock answered. Gotham's in chaos. The Gotham gang's trying to hold lines, but troublemakers are fighting to the death to pin people back. We can take care of it, but it'll take time. He cursed under his breath. Jim was torn between the two impossible choices. Jim, I'll take people to save Xiao Lai. Go save the mayor, Brock urged. But Jim shook his head. It's not that simple, Brock. The cathedral. His phone rang. Penguin. Jim snatched it up, thinking it a plea for help. Don't worry, Penguin said calmly. I'll be all right. Don't forget where I came from. Go do what you have to do. Jim let out a slow breath. Penguin's voice had the same composed iron resolve he'd come to expect. A man used to danger. Jim decided on a plan. Get to Xiao Lai quickly, then rush to the cathedral. After Jerome left the stage, there shouldn't be as many of his people at the roof, right? Wrong. Jim scanned the festival crowd and froze. Pockets of people with Joker makeup were multiplying. At a music festival, people wore strange costumes, but not in those numbers and not that uniformly. Everyone, watch for people with Joker makeup, he shouted. At his call, half the crowd stopped pretending. Almost half the audience were Jerome's. Ambushers sprang up from everywhere. Jim, go save Xiao Lai first, Brock said, panic rising. They won't stop you. Before Jim could decide, more chaos erupted at the festival entrance. Another group of gang members clashed with the Jokers. Jim's eyes widened when he recognized the leader. Fish Mooney, with the Fish Gang, had arrived. Brock's face broke into a relieved grin as he rushed forward. Fish, thank God. Fish shoved Brock aside with an impatient gesture. I didn't come here for you, she said coldly. I came here to deal with Jerome. But her presence broke the ambush, and Jim saw Barbara among the reinforcements. Hey, Jim, she called. Jim nodded, grateful, and then headed straight for the cathedral. Meanwhile, at the outdoor speaking platform, Penguin stood with only a handful of loyalists, Nigma, Gabe, and a few others, surrounded by 30, maybe 40 Joker gang members. The live broadcast showed the whole thing. Gotham watched from their homes as the lead thug taunted, "Kneel, and we'll let you live." Voices from the crowd joined in. In a nearby restaurant, a patron shouted, "Kneel, Mayor Penguin, don't throw your life away." Penguin didn't flinch. He straightened, every inch the head of the city. The era of officials bowing to criminals is over, he said, his voice cutting through the broadcast to thousands of listeners. I am the mayor of Gotham. I represent the backbone of its people. I will not kneel. Gotham will not be defeated by criminals, Nigma added, stepping forward. The Joker thugs bristled. Fine, then die. Penguin smiled, the kind that made his beak seem sharper. Mr. Li Ming gave me an umbrella 2 days ago, he said. Said it might be useful for self-defense. He twisted the umbrella's handle. It opened, seemingly ordinary, black, fraying at the edges, but the motion was practiced, precise. The canopy shimmered, then popped outward in a flash of mechanism and steel. A hidden barrel swiveled up the umbrella's shaft with a small, controlled bang. The lid thug lunged, but Penguin's umbrella discharged once, a non-lethal blast that staggered him and sent his weapon flying. The live feed exploded. Gas hissed from the umbrella's tip, and for a heartbeat, a choking cloud swirled around the front row of Jokers. Sirens wailed in the distance. Jim's arrival would be minutes, not seconds, and Penguin used the pause to buy them time. Now! Penguin barked. Gabe had the wherewithal to push forward, tackling one of the nearest attackers. Nigma moved to secure the broadcast rig so Jerome couldn't hijack the feed. The Jokers coughed and flailed, surprised to find the mayor not only unbowed, but dangerous. In homes across Gotham, people watched their mayor stand and fight. Some listeners gathered in the street, emboldened. A few started toward the scene with whatever they could use as weapons, kitchen chairs, bats, from desperate bravery or stubborn loyalty. The Jokers hesitated. Their control of the crowd faltered. That was all the opening Penguin needed. He jabbed the umbrella like a shaft and sent the lead thug stumbling backward, then swung it sideways to keep a second attacker at bay. Two more civic-minded citizens broke through, joining Jim's arriving police and the Fish Gang members now turning toward the platform. Brock and a squad came tearing up, and Jim himself appeared at the edge of the melee. With reinforcements converging, the Joker's momentum collapsed. They tried to retreat, but the cordon tightened. Fish's people cut off the flanks while the police secured the exits. Within minutes, the area was under control. Several Jokers were down, disarmed, or in cuffs. A few were led away screaming into the vans. The broadcast showed Penguin, umbrella closed now, leaning on its handle. He straightened, breathing hard but unbowed, and lifted his chin toward the cameras. The city had watched him choose defiance over submission and live courage over humiliation. For those who had doubted the Gotham Gang's ability to govern without violence, Penguin's act was not a concession but a declaration. Jim crossed the platform, giving Penguin a curt nod. "You all right, sir?" Penguin met his gaze steadily. "I'm the mayor, Gordon. The city comes first. You did good getting here." Around them, medics moved in, and officers began taking statements. Jerome's fireworks threat still loomed at the cathedral, but for the moment, Gotham had averted a disaster, and the sight of the mayor standing tall had done more than pacify a crowd. It had reminded a city what it was defending. Jerome's laugh lingered in the air as the camera cut to different angles, but Penguin's quiet composure had stolen the show. In a night of terror and choices, the mayor had chosen to stand, and that choice echoed across Gotham like an umbrella shield against the storm. Chapter 148, Crushing the Conspiracy. Click, clack, clack. Penguin's umbrella snapped open, and its tip became a shotgun barrel. He blew the Joker thug in front of him into a spray of blood and bone. Riddler and Gabe drew their pistols and returned fire. Years as officials hadn't dulled their aim. Despite his frail frame, Penguin always led from the front in a gunfight, unafraid of being surrounded. On live television, Gotham's citizens watched, stunned, as he laughed, maniacal and triumphant. "Do you think I'll be like previous mayors, begging with my head in a box?" he shouted, voice carrying across the city. "No, we are the Gotham Gang, and we will fight for Gotham." He opened the umbrella fully. Like Bruce's combat suit, it was built from bullet-resistant materials. He used it to shield Nigma and the others, covering their counterattack and dragging civilians out of harm's way. People watching in a nearby bar couldn't sit still. "Mayor Penguin is fighting to protect Gotham. How can we stand by?" one of them shouted. "I'm going to help." Penguin and his group had built a reputation. The call sparked an immediate response. "I'll go with you," someone else yelled. Within minutes, a crowd armed themselves and poured into the streets. Nearby residents who heard the commotion joined the fray, helping the Gotham Gang and the police push back the Joker Gang. Across Gotham, bars, apartments, and corner cafes saw the same. Ordinary citizens, inspired by Penguin and Ming, stood up to defend their city. Working with the police, they relentlessly suppressed the Joker Gang. Penguin and Nigma exchanged relieved, grateful looks as people checked on them and cheered. They had become symbols to the people of Gotham, exactly as Ming had predicted. Penguin thumbed his phone and called. "Thank you, Friday," he said. "You're welcome, Oswald." Friday replied in its calm, even tone. In Gotham Cathedral, Ra's al Ghul watched the chaos on television and scowled. "Fine, we'll do it ourselves," he said. Behind him stood Catherine of the Court of Owls, the so-called fake ninja master, a squad of talons, and Bruce, standing with a bound Alfred at his side. The rest of the court's members lay hidden in the catacombs below. Catherine's lips curved in triumph. "Gotham will welcome its dusk," she said, exultant. Bruce's jaw tightened. "Gotham will always have people who fight evil," he replied. Catherine shrugged condescendingly. "Wayne, you are still too young to understand the real world. The Court of Owls has controlled Gotham before. We did it twice." At that moment, a man stepped out from the shadows wearing Bruce Wayne's clothes, every detail identical. Alfred stared, stunned. If he hadn't known better, he would not have been able to tell which was real. "After Gotham begins to fall, your double will take your place," Catherine continued. The Wayne Group will be handed to the court. We will use its power to rebuild a city that belongs to us." Bruce swallowed and steadied himself. "That won't work. Gotham is different now. Li Ming, the Gotham Gang, the Gotham Group, you can't do this." Catherine's smile didn't falter. "Li Ming is a foolish upstart for refusing the court's olive branch, but he is powerless now. We have Alice gas, one dispersion, and it will coat the air. Everyone in Gotham will breathe it and fall into purgatory." Before she could finish, a new voice cut through the cathedral. Bruce's eyes widened. "Li?" Li Ming walked into the nave, flanked by members of the Gotham Gang. Catherine's expression flickered. Roz, seeing the arrival, grabbed a detonator and made for an exit. Li Ming moved to intercept, but the fake ninja master and his talons formed a ring, blocking him. Bruce bolted after them. Inside, the Talons' usual advantage, speed and acrobatics, was blunted by the cramped cathedral aisles. Li Ming's men pressed the attack, and the Talons began to fall back. The fake ninja master was forced to retreat, pausing only to meet Li Ming's gaze with an unreadable expression. Among those present, only he and Li Ming knew the depth of this plan. The League would soon lose its leader by his own choice, and the man watched the outcome with conflicted eyes. Gunfire cracked through the nave. A stray bullet struck the Bruce double. He slumped and died in an instant. Catherine spun and tried to flee through the chaos, straight into Jerome Valeska, who had just arrived on the scene. Catherine froze. In her mind, Jerome was on the court's side. But Jerome leveled his pistol without hesitation. "What? The party's over?" he said, disappointment dripping from his voice. "How disappointing." "Catherine," he murmured as she stammered, "we were on the same side, right?" Her attempt to placate him died on her lips. Jerome's grin widened. "Who's on your side?" he asked coldly. "Actually, he laughed, wild and unhinged. A single shot cut Catherine's words off. She crumpled. Gordon, who had been close behind Jerome, saw the murder and fired back. Jerome ducked and danced away with uncanny agility. "Police think they can handle this?" Jerome taunted. "Jim Gordon, let me see what you'd do if I surrendered." Gordon's face went ashen. He fired again. "I'll do what I have to do." Jerome laughed. "I bet you won't," he said, then sprinted toward the cathedral roof. Gordon dashed through the nave. Li Ming had already cut Alfred free and gotten the elder man to safety. "Alfred, are you all right?" Li Ming asked as he helped him sit up. "I'm fine," Alfred said through clenched teeth, gripping Li Ming's hand. "Bruce, I'll bring him back," Li Ming promised. "And I'll bring back the Dark Knight too." He directed his men to tend to Alfred and then took off toward the roof in pursuit of Bruce and Jerome. Gordon caught a glimpse of Li Ming leading Alfred away, then tore after Jerome, gun in hand. The cathedral echoed with sirens and shouts as the conflict that had been plotted in secret began to unravel in the open. Outside on Gotham streets, Penguin kept fighting with his umbrella raised high. Around him, a city that had been complacent for too long was waking up, angry, afraid, and suddenly unwilling to be conquered. The battle for Gotham's soul had only just begun. 149. Don't Fight Bruce Wayne. Chapter 14. Wayne's Challenge. "Why are you following me, Bruce Wayne?" Ra's al Ghul stopped and asked. "You should be running for your life." "I won't run. I'll stop you." Bruce walked forward slowly. "Then you will only die with this city," Ra's replied and pressed the detonator in his hand. Bruce's heart skipped, but nothing happened. He said. Ra's frowned and pressed the button again, and again, still nothing. Bruce drew Ra's attention and held up a small device. "It's a Gotham Group signal scrambler," he said. "I've been following you to keep you inside its range." Ra's shook his head and chuckled. "You shouldn't have told me that." Destroying Gotham hadn't been the original part of his plan with Li Ming, but Ra's was more than willing to seize the chance to overthrow the city. He'd even had the fake ninja master carry an antidote for Alice gas, just in case Bruce was poisoned. Now, watching the look in Bruce's eyes, a world apart from the scared man he'd seen at the museum, Ra's tilted his head. "You mean to kill me?" he asked, intrigued. "Yes." Bruce didn't hesitate. After receiving Selina's message about Alfred's kidnapping, he'd steeled himself. "If I let you go, even if this conspiracy fails, you'll continue to hurt Gotham and cause more deaths." "Killing me will prevent that," Ra's said, smiling. He was pleased. Li Ming's influence had changed Bruce in days. "You must understand. By killing me, you will become a criminal like me." No, it's different. Bruce shook his head. You kill to destroy. I kill to protect. We're fundamentally different. Roz laughed, wider now. This was the dark night he'd been shaping. Walking in darkness to guard the light, he said, a phrase that surprised Bruce. He hadn't expected such sentiment from a man like Roz. The old legend had once been a hero too, but time and countless cruelties had made him decide many people weren't worth saving. He wanted Bruce to become the Dark Knight who protected Gotham, and yet also to help wipe Gotham clean and start anew. Protecting Gotham was tolerable only after forming a new city. As Roz moved closer, Bruce shrugged off his overcoat and tossed it to the ground, revealing the combat suit beneath. In the dim light, the suit looked even more severe. Very good, Roz said, thrilled by how closely Bruce fit his vision. But courage alone isn't enough. You've forgotten the most important point. Roz advanced while Bruce backed away. Let me teach you. Strength is the foundation of your justice. His foot landed on the overcoat. Bruce's smile flickered across his face, a tiny, knowing curve that put Roz on edge. And then Bruce pressed a remote. A blast of freezing air erupted from the coat and instantly encased Roz in ice. Roz was no ordinary man. Though his body was locked, his mind stayed sharp and he could move slightly. Li Ming already taught me that lesson, Bruce said as he approached. But he also said that while strength is important, the mind matters most. You should have captured me outright, Roz rasped. You shouldn't have given me time to prepare. Surprise crossed Roz's face, and then, unexpectedly, delight. He realized he had pushed Bruce into this choice, had set events so that Bruce would have to make a hard, defining decision. He'd planned to detonate the gas and be killed by Bruce, a noble death in a way. But now he found himself frozen in Bruce's trap. Bruce had shown the scrambler to lure him, taken off his coat and thrown it in his path, and donned the suit to distract him. Roz had stepped into the freezing device with no defense. In Roz's mind, Bruce's courage and strategy made him the perfect Dark Knight. Ha! I made you, Roz said one last time, and closed his eyes, content to end his long, painful life. Bruce pulled out the demon's head and drove it into Roz's chest. The body exhaled as if the life had been pulled out of it, then collapsed and decayed rapidly into a mummified shell. You didn't make me, Bruce answered. Bruce, step back, Li Ming called from the shadows. He'd been watching. Bruce obeyed and retreated. This one uses magic, Li Ming warned, pulling out several grenades. Be careful, he doesn't die completely. Bruce nodded, picked up the demon's head, and moved away. With Li Ming there, he trusted the rest to him. Li Ming threw the grenades. With a series of controlled explosions, he opened a quiet portal and teleported Ra's al Ghul's body into the sea, letting it sink. After the blasts, the corpse was gone, apparently obliterated by the detonations. Well done, Bruce. You can truly protect this city now, Li Ming praised, and Bruce felt a warm smile spread across his face. From the shadows, the fake ninja master and the Talons emerged, trading confused looks. They had planned to steal Ra's body and revive him in the Lazarus pit, but now there was nothing left to take. Watching the League of Assassins on the surveillance feeds, bewildered, Li Ming laughed to himself. In the original plan, Raz had refused to be resurrected after dying once. Li Ming certainly wouldn't let him be brought back. If you die, you die. Coming back from the dead was rude. Li Ming stroked Bruce's head. The warmth of his hand calmed Bruce's racing heart. Only then did it hit him. He had just killed the leader of the Court of Owls and avenged his parents. He hadn't thought about that when he struck. His mind had been singularly focused on ridding Gotham of a scourge. Li Ming noticed and was quietly pleased with Bruce's growth. Whether Gotham needed it now or not, Li Ming felt the city would be incomplete without a righteous Dark Knight. The more something is lacking, the more one pursues it. Perhaps that was true, even if Li Ming himself was oddly short on justice. Ahem. Thanks to Shuyu, Yubao Juhua Banjemian, and Huangbu Liao Qing for their monthly ticket support. I really enjoy everyone's comments. I won the boxing match. Let's keep it up. Haha! Chapter 150, a surprise prepared for the faction confrontation. On the church rooftop, Jim Gordon chased Jerome to the edge. Jerome, stop, Jim yelled, gun raised. You have nowhere left to run. Run? Jerome stood with his back to the precipice, turned, and pulled a small detonator from his coat, laughing. Ha! Standing higher gives you a better signal, you know? Jim's eyes locked on the detonator. Without hesitation, he fired. The bullet struck Jerome in the lower abdomen. The detonator slipped from Jerome's fingers and clattered to the roof. Whoa, that hurts. Even as he winced, Jerome craned his neck to show Gordon the slash across his chest, the knife wound Galavan had given him. Compared to this, he said, grinning, that stings a lot less. How rude, Gordon muttered. Jerome toppled backward, but he caught the cornice and hung there, kicking, keeping from falling. He shifted his weight so he wouldn't drop. Do you remember the question I asked you, Jim? He said. If I surrender to you now, will you arrest me or kill me? Gordon answered. Now's the time to decide, Jerome giggled. Of course, if I ever get caught, I won't change. I'll come out and kill even more people. Ha ha! Gordon hesitated. He knew Jerome wasn't bluffing. In days past, Gordon might not have worried about Jerome's life or the lives of others, but the landscape in Gotham had changed. Criminals could now face legal consequences. He reached out a hand to pull Jerome up. Jerome snaked away. Good old Jim Gordon, always playing by the rules, he taunted. That's why I last longer than you. People love me more because I don't follow rules. Ha ha ha! It's a long way down. Are you sure you'll outlast me? Gordon asked, still trying to grab him. The church rooftop was some 20 to 30 meters above the street. No one survived a fall like that. I'm sure, Jerome said calmly. I'm not a person. I'm a thought, an idea. I'll live on in the shadows, living in Gotham's discontent. He laughed, wild and bright. If things go wrong for even one day, anyone can be driven mad. Ha ha ha! He gave Gordon a last look. You'll see me again very soon. Then he let go. Jerome fell, and as he plummeted, he opened his coat to reveal a belt of explosives. Gordon dove for cover. The rooftop erupted. Smoke and debris filled the night. When the blast cleared, Jerome was gone. Only wreckage remained. Still, Gordon felt the truth of the man's words. He would see Jerome again. Far away in the Indian Hill facility, a portal blinked open, and Jerome stumbled out onto a concrete floor. Amazing, he said, dazed. Hugo, who had been on standby, rushed over and began attending to his wounds. Jerome patted Hugo's shoulder and grinned. Have you ever fallen 30 meters? He asked. It feels just like falling 30 centimeters. Like Ra's al Ghul's publicized death, Jerome's rooftop explosion had been a diversion. Before the blast, Li Ming had used a portal to swap Jerome with a corpse. Originally, Li Ming planned for Jerome to stay out longer and play his part, but the Joker Gang's expansion had accelerated faster than expected. Li Ming decided the easiest course was to have Jerome and the Court of Owls depart together, culminating in a citywide chaos as a final performance, a dramatic, dignified exit. With Catherine, the court's current public leader, and Ra's al Ghul, its hidden leader, both dead, the remaining members who had been in hiding were betrayed from within and soon rounded up by the Gotham police. The Court of Owls, long rumored to be Gotham's true rulers, was exposed in public for the first time and declared finished. Official statements framed the court as a cabal of certain Gotham families who intended to collaborate with the Joker Gang to deploy poison gas and carry out a terrorist attack. Fortunately, the plot was foiled through the combined efforts of the municipal government, the Gotham Gang, and Gotham's citizens. Bruce's part in the operation was kept secret. He didn't want the spotlight just yet, while the public's role was emphasized. Li Ming had intentionally amplified citizens' heroism. Involving the public in a shared victory would greatly boost the Gotham Gang's approval and popularity. After all, one of the strongest bonds is having fought side by side. The exposed families scrambled to attach themselves to the Gotham Gang. The public might not grasp the full depth of the court's power, but among Gotham's elite, it was well known that an underground ruler had long existed. With the old order crushed, the families of exposed court members were purged. The new power structure was obvious. Gotham Gang now stood unchallenged at the center. Li Ming was busy during all of this, delivering speeches across Gotham and promoting the Gotham principles, maintaining stability under the leadership of the Gotham Gang. The response was enthusiastic. It showed up in both opinion and commerce. Gotham Group products flew off shelves, and only Wayne Enterprises, with its deep roots, could still compete. Between them, for virtually every major need in a Gotham citizen's life, Gotham Group and Wayne Enterprises could offer a complete one-stop service. Li Ming didn't care about money, but he did care about being prepared. Friday had already fabricated him a Mark 47 Iron Man suit, better than a Mark 46, with some limited nanotech, similar to the armor seen in Spider-Man Homecoming. It wasn't on the level of the suit from Avengers Infinity War, but it could travel to space and operate deep underwater. It represented the pinnacle of Tony Stark's tech before Avengers 3. Li Ming chose a dark black color scheme. It wasn't because he didn't want something flashier. He'd had Friday estimate how long it would take to build a more advanced suit. The Avengers 3-era armor required too many resources and too much time, and Li Ming couldn't risk running out of mission time. So he took the Mark 47 now and used the remaining time to set up several Mark III armor production lines instead, the classic suit Tony wore in Iron Man. For most mission worlds, the Mark III was still highly capable, and Li Ming outfitted them with remote control modules so Friday could take direct control. The next mission would be a faction confrontation. Li Ming didn't know how strong his opponents would be, who his teammates might be, or whether any teammates would be trustworthy. All he could do was prepare for the worst, a solo fight against everyone on the other side. In a mission world with enough time, he could ignore consequences and rapidly mass-produce Mark III armors from his production lines, building an Iron Legion to make up for any numerical disadvantage. Do not challenge Batman to a fight, but also do not challenge Li Ming. He would use cannons to swat a mosquito. With enough firepower, anyone who came at him would be wiped out. Thanks to Tian Yiwei Chan and Pluto for the monthly votes. Thanks to Yubao Juhua Banjamian for the reward. Please don't save up chapters, everyone. Boo-hoo-hoo. Chapter 151, Reincarnation Squad established. In the chaos the Court of Owls had unleashed, the Fish Gang, led by Fish, had unexpectedly become public heroes. They'd clashed with the Joker gang during a concert and, in doing so, indirectly saved many civilians. People began to see them differently. Li Ming waved it off. Although the Fish Gang were enemies of the Gotham Gang, as long as they weren't enemies of Gotham itself, he could tolerate them. With his word, the Fish Gang secured a foothold in Crime Alley and effectively gained legitimate territory. No one in the Gotham Gang objected. Li Ming's decision had been framed as one made for Gotham's benefit, and there was no practical way to argue with it. Across the city, everyone who talked about it praised the King of Gotham's vision, calling him magnanimous and kingly. In truth, Li Ming had simply created a controllable opposition. About a month later, most of Fish's mutated underlings began dying one by one. Their genetic disease had no antidote, leaving only 2 or 3 survivors. Fish herself, knowing her time was short, handed leadership to Butch, and Li Ming approved the transfer. That effectively meant the Gotham Gang would tolerate Fish's group only if its leader was someone Li Ming accepted. Otherwise, they would be wiped out. The fact that the enemy's leader was appointed by him reinforced his authority. Fish didn't actually die. Like Jerome, she staged her death and slipped away to the Indian Hill base. There, with Jerome, were Mad Hatter Jervis Tetch, Scarecrow Jonathan Crane, and Poison Ivy Pepper. These 5 became Li Ming's picks for the Reincarnation Squad. Mad Hatter had been under Li Ming from the start. Recruiting him was simple. Show a little power, and he would bend. Li Ming had even used the Hatter to infiltrate the court, and the court had helped manufacture a large supply of Alice gas for Li Ming. The court didn't use it. Li Ming kept it. Scarecrow, who had served under Jerome before, joined smoothly once he learned Jerome was alive. Poison Ivy was brought in to fill out the numbers. Li Ming hadn't settled on the 5th member, so he took Ivy, who had particular skills. Ivy's story was odd. Chased by Fish's freaks, she fell into the sewers and, after waking, had been altered by their influence. A girl of about 10 transformed into a young woman, gaining the ability to hypnotize people with the scent her body produced. Afraid to go to the Gotham Gang and unwilling to join Fish, she drifted through the city. In a reckless moment, she ran into a pharmacy and swallowed a bunch of experimental chemicals. In this world of strange fates, she didn't die. Instead, she changed again, becoming the image of a mature woman and gaining stronger powers. Not only could she hypnotize, she could command plants within a certain range. But she also became an extreme environmentalist, convinced that plants were more important than humans and happy to use people as fertilizer if it served the flora. Li Ming hadn't wanted someone so unstable on the reincarnation squad, but Ivy's abilities were too valuable to pass up. Besides, members were not allowed to harm one another. Whatever mess Ivy made in a mission world wouldn't be his problem. So our team is complete, the super squad? Jerome was delighted. The stranger the members were, the more they interested him. I assume you all know each other now? From this point on, you are a team. Li Ming stepped forward under their gazes. Ivy, impatient, was the first to speak. A team? For what? She had accepted the invitation only because she'd been told the money would be good. Nobody had explained the purpose beforehand. To explore other worlds, Li Ming said. Not in Gotham? She asked. Not only not in Gotham, Li Ming said, but not in this world either. That's ridiculous. Ivy began to protest, then glanced at the King of Gotham and fell silent. I'm not joining. I quit. A flash of electricity snapped across the air. Ivy froze. A long, white cut appeared down her cheek and trickled blood. She looked at Li Ming's scepter. Faint sparks still clung to it. Once you're in here, Li Ming said, you don't get to choose anymore. He smiled and added, I don't need your consent to recruit you. Except for Jerome and the Scarecrow, the others felt cold dread settling in their stomachs. Jerome had known this was coming and had been eager for it. Scarecrow knew no fear. Fish had already resigned herself and wanted to understand the full terms. How will this exploring other worlds work, she asked. You'll be given one or several missions, Li Ming replied. How you complete them is up to you. You can improvise. There will be rewards. Power and wealth depend on your capabilities. I heard the King of Gotham disappeared for 8 months once. Was that to other worlds? Mad Hatter asked. Li Ming only smiled. The Reincarnation space forbade mentioning the space in mission worlds. Even telling them this much risked breaching its rules. But he figured that once they became reincarnators, any small violation would be forgiven. With the Abyss at his disposal, he'd already broken a few rules. Jerome will be the provisional captain of the Reincarnation Squad, Li Ming announced. Captain? Do we have to obey everything he says? Fish asked. Li Ming shrugged. That's up to you. As long as the mission is completed, that's what matters. If anyone has an objection to the captain after the first world ends, the survivors can decide among themselves, he added. What does that mean? Ivy's voice tightened. We're going to die? Yes, Li Ming answered without hesitation. You didn't think I was recruiting Gotham's supercriminals just to play house, did you? Ivy clamped her mouth shut. Li Ming stepped up to Jerome and extended his hand. Pale blue flame licked his palm. That was the recruit privilege at work. Do you accept the recruitment? Li Ming asked. Of course, Jerome said eagerly. He took Li Ming's hand. The blue flame spread over him and then faded. Jerome stood very still with his eyes closed, the space feeding him whatever information it supplied. Scarecrow, shabby and silent, said, willing, and put out his hand. Fish and Mad Hatter accepted as well. Ivy, still muttering about dying together, finally gave in and let Li Ming recruit her too. Li Ming thought Ivy wouldn't die easily. Her powers made her resilient, but her own lack of judgment was a liability. He didn't worry about that. Anyone could die. There were always more villains to recruit. He was the reincarnation space's slave driver. Chapter 152, Return. Abyss Boss is generous. Jerome and the others stayed behind at Indian Hill. Their bodies still needed time to recover, so it was a perfect chance for Hugo to help them heal. Once Li Ming returned to the space, they would begin their first reincarnator world together. Over the next few months, Li Ming reorganized Gotham Group's structure. By now, Gotham Group was worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and getting the organization right early would save a lot of trouble later. Hundreds of millions was only the beginning. The company had been established for a short time, and as Li Ming's technological breakthroughs continued to roll out, it was only a matter of time before Gotham Group reached Wayne Group's scale. In fact, the farther it grew, the more likely it was to surpass Wayne Group. Li Ming set targets for Friday in this world, the company's development direction, monitoring key Gotham personnel for any unusual activity, and outward expansion into cities like Metropolis and Central City. He had Friday invest in many strategic companies. Since Wonder Woman Diana existed in this world, other Justice League heroes were likely to appear as well. One of Li Ming's most important directives to Friday was to ensure that Gotham Group's products dominated one particular market completely: Smallville, Kansas. The famous Kent Farm was there, the farm that had been central to Superman's origin for decades. Li Ming also made individual arrangements for his subordinates, chiefly Penguin, Riddler, Nigma, and Butch. Penguin and Riddler were doing very well, working seamlessly together, so Li Ming discreetly probed into their personal lives. He configured Friday's built-in voice package to be exclusive to Penguin, so Penguin wouldn't be blocked by Friday speaking to someone else while calling it himself. Friday was just an AI. There was no need for anything more. Nigma's intelligence was being fully utilized in politics. Li Ming had always thought it was a shame such a brilliant mind was wasted on crime, and now the facts were proving him right. He arranged an introduction to a woman named Isabella, who looked almost exactly like Kringle, the woman Nigma had yearned for. Unlike Kringle, Isabella was utterly devoted to Nigma, practically the perfect partner in his eyes. Li Ming had already folded Isabella into the Gotham gang. The move tied Riddler more closely to the organization, and so far it was working very well. Butch received no special instructions. He was to continue as before, running the Fish Gang, the officially sanctioned rival to the Gotham gang. After settling his affairs, Li Ming told Bruce, Alfred, and the others that he would be leaving Gotham for a while. Having been through this before, they didn't protest as much this time, only reminding him to return soon. Li Ming reminded Bruce to prioritize safety and to call for backup decisively when facing dangerous opponents. Bruce acknowledged it. Li Ming then boarded a yacht moored at Gotham Pier and set sail. He wasn't content to return in a small truck this time. He'd found a yacht with roughly 1,000 tons displacement, about 65 meters long, 13 meters wide, with a 500-ton carrying capacity, and planned to take it through the portal. The yacht carried several Iron Man armor production lines Li Ming had accumulated, along with supplies, toxic agents, and weapons. It wasn't an exaggeration to say the contents of the yacht could, if unleashed, wipe out a small country. His choice wasn't just about firepower. Li Ming anticipated that faction confrontations would be crucial in the Abyss. With the privileges he'd been granted, he needed to win those confrontations, and bringing as much as possible increased his chances. He also worried whether such a large yacht could pass through the portal, so he concentrated the most important materials together in case the yacht couldn't make it. He could always carry them in by hand if needed. He guessed the Abyss understood that faction confrontations mattered, and that the more he brought, the better his odds, so it likely wouldn't refuse. Ding. Mission countdown ended. Portal opening. Li Ming stood at the yacht's helm as the portal opened on the deck. He felt a little disappointed. Couldn't he exploit such a big loophole? Abyss, look, doesn't this yacht of mine look like your world origin? He asked, patting the wheel. Perhaps hearing him, the swirling portal on the deck flickered twice, shifted to the sea surface, then back to the deck, and flickered again as if something inside were struggling. After repeating the motion a few times, the portal steadied on the sea surface. The Abyss might be glitchy, but it still worked. Li Ming steered the yacht toward the portal. It expanded to accommodate the whole vessel. At the same time, a portal opened at the Indian Hill experimental base. Jerome and several others stepped through one after another and vanished from Gotham. Only a stunned Hugo remained behind. Just as Jerome disappeared from Gotham, a gift arrived at a construction site. When the recipient opened it, a lifelike clown popped out and sprayed a cloud of gas across the worker's face. Jerome's custom laughing gas. Jerome's voice came from the box. "You didn't think you were rid of me, big brother." Ha! The worker's mind fractured. Images of Jerome flashed before his eyes, and he screamed in pain. Slowly, the screams warped into something else. They became laughter, the same cruel, frenzied laugh as Jerome's. The gas didn't just injure, it unsealed what the worker had been hiding. Heh! Ha! Gotham was never short of clowns. Scan complete. Abyss favored one is unharmed. No treatment needed. In the pure white space, Li Ming lounged on a deck chair and watched the Abyss's display. Expansion completed. Official influence, S. Economic influence, S. Public opinion influence. Gang influence, overall mission rating, S. Rewards, 2,000 points, 5 free attribute points, Lord equipment upgrade. With the 20,000 points he'd just received, Li Ming's total reached 110,000. He was already looking forward to what he could buy in the space. The 5 free attribute points went straight into spirit without hesitation. During his 2 years in Gotham, time for cultivation had been limited, but his Camartage spells had advanced to level 3, the limit of what he could learn there, since Camartage texts couldn't be removed or copied. The spell upgrade had already pushed his spirit to 42. With the 5 points, it rose to 47. As for the Lord equipment upgrade, Li Ming owned only one Lord item, the Gotham Scepter. Once his most powerful tool, it had become more of a magical artifact and ornament after he gained his bloodline. He was naturally pleased the Abyss offered to upgrade it, but before he could see how it would change, the Abyss pinged him again. Ding, current Reincarnator level, Tier 2. Tier 2 privileges activated. Reincarnators can exchange spoils of war for points or improve mission evaluation. Exchange, the system offered. No, I won't, Li Ming said. Gotham's a backwater. There's nothing really valuable there. The Abyss persisted. Ding, detected Abyss Favored One possesses exchangeable items. Lazarus Pit Water, Demon's Head, Fletcher's Frozen Research Results, Hugo's Resurrection Research Results. All right, stop counting. I'll exchange. But Li Ming stroked his chin. Abyss, you know I'm not short on points. The Abyss understood just fine. Ding, the above items can be exchanged for a special reward, smuggling privilege upgrade. Li Ming took out the listed items and offered them with both hands. Boss is generous, thanks to Qingfeng for the great monthly ticket support. Who can tell me what a 2-cost Raven from Samsung is? It's stronger than a 5-cost card. Chapter 153. Abyss's protection for the big boss. After Ra's al Ghul died, the Lazarus Pit he left in Gotham naturally became Li Ming's. Before he returned, Li Ming had a large tank of Lazarus Pit water installed on his yacht, an emergency healing reserve. It didn't hurt to give a little of it to the space. After all, he still felt some loyalty to his old boss. The Demon's Head, the blade, was useless to Li Ming. It had a trace of magic, but the power could only be activated by Ra's himself. He'd taken it intending to trade with the space. The research data he'd taken was simply copied. Li Ming had thought of monopolizing the findings, but the Abyss had worked hard on them too, so he would let it reap some benefit. It wasn't about privileges. The items Li Ming offered were quickly absorbed by the Abyss, and the white void chimed a notification. Ding. Smuggling privilege has been upgraded. Huh? I can't choose the upgrade direction this time. Li Ming wondered for a moment, thinking he'd been cheated. If the upgrade went in a direction he didn't want, it would be a loss. He checked the smuggling privilege description and leapt out of his recliner in surprise. Abyss privilege, smuggling exclusive. The Abyss Favored One can independently open Abyss teleportation gates. Effect 1. If opened in a mission world, you may return early. If the main mission is not completed, the mission is considered failed. If the main mission is completed, mission evaluation drops by 2 levels. Effect 2. After returning, you can open a teleportation gate to freely enter and exit your exclusive world. Duration of stay is affected by the mission countdown. No new missions will refresh while inside the exclusive world. Effect 3. You can directly take items out of the mission world without space authentication. They automatically convert to personal items. Living beings excluded. Li Ming had not expected the Abyss to grant him the ability to open its teleportation gates. The upgraded smuggling privilege had gained 2 astonishing capabilities: early return and free entry and exit into his exclusive world. Each was incredible. The ability to return early meant the Abyss was willing to bend the rules to save his life, essentially a death exemption. Free entry and exit from his exclusive world would let Li Ming control logistics for worlds like Gotham, replenish supplies at will, and operate without relying on the space's standard gates. Even the original smuggling feature had been improved. The requirement to complete the main mission before taking items out had been removed. He could now return early and still bring back loot. Li Ming had a hunch the upgrade was related to the teleportation gate that that had been flickering when he returned last time. Had the Abyss seen how reckless he was and simply handed him the power to open gates? The Abyss wouldn't answer. Li Ming was more than satisfied. He saw a deeper pattern. Recruitment had given him the right to recruit reincarnators, and now smuggling let him open teleportation gates that only the Abyss could open. The Abyss was sharing part of its power with him. Did that mean one day he could become something like the Abyss? Thinking of the Abyss's current pitiable state, Li Ming dismissed the fantasy. He still had to proceed step by step. Besides, the gates he could open clearly couldn't return to the original world, presumably that fell under the return privilege. He turned his attention to the Gotham Scepter to see how it had changed. Gotham Scepter. Quality: excellent. Type: Lord's Equipment Holder, Li Ming. Effects: Agility +2, Spirit 5, Casting Speed 10%, 4-dimensional attributes +1%, minimum 3, +2%, minimum 6, while within Gotham. Gem: Tear of the Goddess, stores 360 units of energy. Trait: Sturdy, significantly increases durability. Skills: Wrath of Gotham active, centered on the scepter. Enemies within a 50-meter radius will enter an indiscriminate attack state for 10 minutes. Skill effect enhanced, target specific, cooldown 48 hours. Gotham's expectation: upon the holder's death, they can revive in Gotham within the exclusive world, exempt from mission penalties. Cost: 20,000 points. Prerequisite: Gotham region reputation must reach A, current reputation S, can be advanced. Li Ming blinked. The Abyss really doesn't want me to die. He had expected the scepter to get stat buffs or new combat skills, but a resurrection skill? One revival for 20,000 points was practically free. The reputation requirement didn't bother him. Unless he vanished for decades, his standing in Gotham wouldn't drop. This wasn't an immediate boost to combat power, but it was hugely reassuring. If he faced a battle he couldn't win, he could estimate whether it was more cost-effective to open a teleportation gate and escape with the spoils, or let himself die and revive. He wondered if his future enemies would be annoyed. Li Ming patted the scepter with approval. I am the king of Gotham. All the villains in Gotham have resurrection springs. Why shouldn't I? The scepter's original bonuses had also improved. Where it had given +1 to attributes before, it now provided +1%. That tiny change multiplied the actual effect. For example, 1% of Li Ming's highest attribute, 4,998, was almost 50 points, equivalent to raising 5 ordinary people's levels. Wrath of Gotham's area and potency had increased too, and he could still spend points in the space to strengthen the scepter further. So satisfying. He was pleased, but practical. Each enhancement would likely cost at least 20,000 points, and his stock of 110,000 points would be eaten away quickly. Sigh, so poor, he muttered. Li Ming opened the analysis interface. He hadn't forgotten the business opportunity he'd discovered in the reincarnation space. Weakened version, T103 Tyrant Blood Evolution Fluid. It cost 2,000 points on the analysis exchange, but could be resold in the space for 5 to 6,000, double or triple profit. Last time, there had only been 3 of that item in the entire space market. Dumping too many would crash his own market, since he only had that one bloodline product. He needed to stagger supply. Let's exchange 5 for now. He spent 10,000 points, expecting resale to bring in 20,000 to 30,000 points. The main profits, however, would still come from military supplies. The yacht's interior had been heavily modified. Entertainment rooms and luxury spaces were removed and replaced with cargo holds and production workshops. The Mark II production line was running. 45 sets of simplified Mark II Iron Man armor had been completed. In Gotham, his attention and resources were divided, so production there was slower. For Li Ming personally, building those suits cost almost nothing. The points earned from selling them were virtually pure profit. Before listing his prices, he asked the Abyss one more question. Abyss, can items sold to other reincarnators in the space be reverse-engineered to discover their manufacturing methods? Ding. Items sold in the space are scrapped upon disassembly and cannot be researched. That answer reassured him. If space buyers couldn't reverse-engineer his gear, he could safely start stocking up and selling. Li Ming set his plans in motion. Thanks to Che K for the monthly pass support. 154. Iron Man suit sale. Abyss favored 1. Please choose. 1. Return to reincarnation space. 2. Return to Abyss space. 3. Return to the original world. Although he had already completed missions in 4 worlds, this was only Li Ming's second time returning to a space and his first time with access to Abyss space. It was absurd. The Abyss treated him like family, yet he had never once visited its main domain. Return to reincarnation space, he decided. He could shuttle between reincarnation space and Abyss space later, and selling goods in reincarnation space was the priority. Teleportation gate has opened. Next world mission countdown. Abyss reminder, please do not casually reveal your identity. Stepping through the gate, Li Ming arrived on a different platform. This one was larger and more crowded than the rookie platform he'd seen before. Reincarnators kept arriving. Groups of acquaintances talked, but most kept to themselves. What caught his eye was the number of stalls, people hawking weapons, potions, dummies, and all kinds of merchandise, as if this were an MMO marketplace. Excellent grade greatswords, guaranteed to shred magical beasts. Handcrafted potions, healing, resistance, sleep, charm, hyper-realistic training dummy, superb detail. Dazuo had explained the basics last time. Besides the official trading interface, reincarnators could do private transactions for a 2% handling fee. Private deals were often cheaper, but without space authentication, there was a risk of fakes. For items that could be listed on the trading interface, private sales usually meant the goods had flaws. Li Ming browsed the stalls and noticed most sellers were logistics reincarnators, specialists in alchemy, forging, mining, and other production roles. After a faction secured enough world origin from a mission world, it controlled that world and needed people to exploit the resources. Logistics reincarnators handled that work, took fewer dangerous missions, and mostly did supply and maintenance. Space is limited how many could take that role, and their point-earning channels were narrow. Wages were small and most profit went to the space. Many stallholders were here to earn a few points. Li Ming learned the market quickly. Consumables were common, but anything that directly enhanced combat power, especially bloodline items, sold for high prices. He still preferred the trading interface for big-ticket items. Private deals were too risky. Still, the crowd and the market size delighted him. He wouldn't have trouble selling his Mark II Iron Man armors. If he wanted every low-level reincarnator to have one someday, his current production was nowhere near enough, but this was a start. At the exchange center, he queued up 45 sets of Mark II Iron Man armor and a larger number of wearable maintenance platforms. The wearable platform was crucial. It helped the user put on the armor and adjusted the internal fittings to match the wearer's body. Bundling was common sense. He put the armor and platform together as a single listing. No information for this item. Please name it. Iron Man armor. Armor maintenance platform. Please enter the selling price. Li Ming hesitated for a moment. The Mark II suits were weakened versions, but they still had flight systems, pulse cannons, external weapon mounts, and an integrated AI that provided significant assistance. On the trading interface, any equipment that so comprehensively raised a reincarnator's power typically sold for no less than 3,000 points. He decided to undercut the market. 1,000 points, he entered. Just the price of an oak staff, and you could take home an Iron Man suit. He knew it was cheap, but anything higher would be unaffordable for most low-level reincarnators. Not everyone could return from a mission with 20,000 points like he had. Armors worn into big battles would get damaged, and most users wouldn't be able to fully repair them. Mild damage was fixable, but a suit wrecked in a major clash could become practically single-use. If you wanted repairs, the maintenance platform could restore the armor given the required materials. He priced the platform at 200 points. Together, the set cost 1,100 points, within reach even for people who'd only been to one mission world. Price set, he thought about branding. The trading interface hid identities, so a recognizable name would help sales. Mysterio? No, he shook his head. It was still Iron Man. He took out his Mark 47 and had Friday weld the Iron Man helmet logo onto the left chest plate of each Mark II. The refined look of a Mark 47 emblem elevated the standardized Mark II helmets, like a king bestowing honors on his knights. Come back intact, he silently urged them. Don't be like that idiot Edith who tarnished the Stark name. Wait, Edith's coming too? Well, whatever. He listed all 45 suits bundled with 45 maintenance platforms for 1 and 200 points and offered individual maintenance platforms separately at 200 points. Next, he checked the price of weakened version T103 Tyrant Blood Evolution Fluid. The cheapest listing was 5,900 points, only 100 less than the space's own price, clearly in high demand. Li Ming listed 2 at 5,700 and 3 at 5,800, deliberately undercutting the market. After posting his items, he didn't linger on the exchange. He switched his destination. Go to Abyss Space. Abyss Teleportation Gate has opened. Abyss reminder, please don't trust anyone. Thanks to Goldcoin Little Vest, Dragon Emperor SSS, Xiao Ji, Bookfriend 178572, Bookfriend 29929 2045081, and Ji Wanshi for monthly ticket support. Thanks for the reward support. Lord Ji Wanshi. Chapter 155, Reincarnators of the Abyss Space. Don't trust anyone. Li Ming's face hardened. If he remembered correctly, reincarnators from the same space should be allies. They might form different factions, but the space itself shouldn't turn hostile. Outside, people said they hadn't seen reincarnators from the Abyss Space in years. Li Ming had even assumed he was the last one. Yet the name Abyss implied there were others, and they might be dangerous. No, they couldn't directly attack someone inside their own space, but caution didn't hurt. He clipped the iron spider suit to his belt. If things went south, he could change in a second. Then, thinking a disguise might help, he pulled on a black mask, swapped into a combat suit that resembled Bruce's, stowed away the Gotham scepter, and styled himself as a young Batman. The idea that the most dangerous people might be in his own space left him muttering, "That's absurd." He stepped through the teleportation gate. Every space had its own character. The reincarnation space was bright and bustling, a public hub for their kind. The Abyss space was its opposite, deep, dark, and oppressive, like standing on the rim of an infinite chasm. The sky above was dim, like night, and the thin breeze carried a purplish-black chill. Buildings were scarred by long-ago battles. Many collapsed, the rest badly weathered. Silence pressed in. The place felt like a tomb. There was almost nobody here. Li Ming spotted only one person, an old man perched casually on the edge of the teleportation platform, white hair and a tattered magic robe. The old man jumped when Li Ming arrived. "A newcomer?" he asked, leaping to his feet. Li Ming said nothing, meeting the old man's gaze through his mask, then nodded. "Heh! How strange! It's been years since we had a newcomer in the Abyss." The old man circled Li Ming, inspecting him like prey. Li Ming was about to walk on when the man stopped him. "Don't leave. The Abyss is a mess. Do you even know where to go?" Li Ming had to admit he didn't. The buildings looked ruined enough that the exchange hall might have collapsed. He paused, and the old man brightened. "How many missions have you completed?" "2," Li Ming answered after a moment. "A complete newcomer, then." The old man probed. "What was your mission evaluation?" Li Ming remained silent. The old man chuckled at his reticence. "Curiosity, don't mind me. Ha ha." He changed the subject. "Looking for the exchange center, right?" Li Ming nodded. The old man grinned. "Right now, that's the only place in the Abyss that's still usable. Come with me. They should all be there." "They?" Li Ming asked. "Other reincarnators from the Abyss," the old man said, his smile more chilling than friendly. "The last reincarnators." The old man led Li Ming through broken streets and collapsed walls to a rough plaza. About a dozen figures huddled there, each one warped in some way, green-faced with fangs, three-armed, skeletal. Their expressions were flat, as if "keep out" had been carved onto their faces. Yet they stood together in that little safe zone. They ignored the old man until he returned with Li Ming. At his arrival, the group stirred. "Zheng Lao Gui, is that a newcomer?" a pale, wheezing man called. His voice rasped like he was speaking through bellows. "Yes," the old man, Zheng Lao Gui, replied. The reincarnators fixated on Li Ming. The oppressive aura that had made Li Ming's skin crawl eased slightly. The plaza felt like a refuge. "How many rounds?" the pale man asked. 2, Li Ming said. He now realized the question was about mission count. "What a pity. Otherwise, this spot could have gone to you," the pale man said, disappointment in his rasp. "What spot?" Li Ming asked. "Heh heh," You'll find out after one more mission, Zheng Laogui said. It's a faction confrontation mission. Teams pair off against rival faction reincarnators. Faction confrontation needs at least 3 people per team. If there aren't enough willing, they'll pull folks from the pool, the pale man added. You all sound strong, so no worries, right? Li Ming ventured. Zheng Laogui snorted. Strong? Only rats survive this long. Anyone even a little stronger is dead. The Abyss doesn't even have a 4th-tier reincarnator anymore. How did they die? Li Ming asked casually. Don't know exactly. The space itself got invaded. I wouldn't dare to look, Zheng Laogui answered, the words carrying real fear. Li Ming's unease deepened. This ruin had clearly been carved by war. Aren't you safe, though? Plenty of people in a space should mean less chance of being picked, Li Ming said weakly. Heh, there are only 38 people in the Abyss space right now. With you, that's 39, Zheng Laogui said with a half-smile. Li Ming pretended to be shocked. The others laughed, satisfied to have unnerved the newcomer. But inside, he was genuinely surprised. 39 people in an entire space was fewer than the crowd around a popular stall in the reincarnation space. The group's hollow attitude worried him. They seemed resigned. So our situation is bad. We should work together to pull the space out of this mess, Li Ming said, hoping to rally them. They laughed louder. The Abyss is finished, suppressed by every faction. No chance of recovery, someone said. Just live as long as you can, another concluded. Missions are a scam. Do your best, and you'll still die in faction confrontation. It's fine to fail missions. Just don't die, a third muttered. Li Ming frowned. If they failed missions constantly, wouldn't penalties pile up until they were eliminated? He asked the question and was rewarded with a grin from Zheng Laogui. Living in this space takes brains, the old man said like a veteran. It's not easy to get a newcomer to help ease our burden of available spots. You can't die too fast, so listen. By the way, what's your name? He asked. Zhang Weike, Li Ming answered without changing his tone. All right, little Zhang. After your next mission, don't use your points to exchange for anything. Li Ming's eyes widened. Then I'll have to die for sure in faction confrontation, won't I? You only die for sure if you try to complete the mission, Zheng Laogui said. If you want to survive, it's simpler. After the mission begins, go find reincarnators on the opposing faction and ask them for points. As long as the points they give you, plus your own, cover the mission penalty, you just forfeit the mission and wait to be sent back. The idea hung in the air, crude, pragmatic, and utterly in keeping with a space that had learned to survive on the edge of extinction. Chapter 156. A big con artist arrives in the Abyss. Li Ming raised an eyebrow. Just as he'd suspected, these people were selling life insurance in the middle of space. How many points is the mission penalty? He asked. A regular mission is usually 1,000, Zheng Laogui said, sounding like he was quoting prices, and a faction confrontation is 5,000. Sometimes it goes higher, depends on luck. So nobody wants the faction confrontations. If the price spikes and you don't have enough points, you're done for. Li Ming found the penalties surprisingly low and smiled inwardly. With his constant S-rank evaluations, he wouldn't be short on points. The others seemed like a pack of poor devils. Zheng Laogui added, point penalties are the lightest part. There are other consequences too. It affects the difficulty of future worlds and more. But for us, it doesn't matter. That made sense. If failure only cost points, most reincarnators wouldn't be afraid. Li Ming listened closely and noticed that almost everyone around him sounded disconnected from the Abyss. As Zheng Laogui had said, they'd become a colony of rats. Li Ming didn't want teammates like that. Given their attitude, he'd rather go solo. From their conversation, he also sensed the Abyss was in a bad way. Few reincarnators, low quality, not a single 4th tier among them. Li Ming himself was only 2nd tier. This mission hadn't raised his rank, so tier didn't seem tied to strength. More likely, it was based on the number or difficulty of mission worlds completed. That would mean the Abyss hadn't completed a world mission in a long time. A decaying realm, lazy reincarnators. The whole Abyss space gave off a feeling of decline. Still, Li Ming's gut said the Abyss couldn't be as helpless as they claimed. It was giving him many privileges, which implied some foundation. Granting favoritism inside the Abyss might be one thing, But to let him have advantages in the reincarnation space, in plain sight of all the factions, required power. Maybe the Abyss and its reincarnators were playing mind games. The Abyss made its space look rundown to lull rival factions into complacency, then used faction confrontations to thin out its own complacent reincarnators. The reincarnators, for their part, were crafty and difficult to eliminate. Li Ming didn't care to untangle blame. He sided with the Abyss. He needed his privileges. If the Abyss fell, he'd lose those benefits, so he resolved to be useful. 2,000 points. Li Ming sounded flustered. What can I do? That's too much. Don't you get 2,000 for completing a C-rank evaluation? Zheng Laogui asked. The reward for a C-rank apparently matched the penalty. Li Ming wouldn't have known that if Zheng Laogui hadn't mentioned it. I exchanged some things in the reincarnation space. Li Ming lied without missing a beat. Sigh. Why worry so much? I might not even survive the next mission. He sat down on the ground like the others, playing up his defeat. Might as well go to Eden one last time to enjoy myself, he muttered. A flicker of concern passed through Zheng Laogui's eyes. He'd seen many reincarnators give up when their prospects looked bleak. He turned to a man watching them and said, Anya, you're 6th ranked. If Little Zhang survives the next faction confrontation, he can take your spot, and you'd get to push your mission back 1 turn. Are you going to help him get through the next mission safely? The man called Anya, dressed all in black, fitting his name, asked, skeptical. What if he's lying and hasn't even finished his 2nd mission? It could be his 1st. Zheng Laogui shrugged. Whether he goes this time or next, it lets you postpone your turn once. Anya snorted. Why should I help him? You're 9th ranked. If he survives, it helps you too. They were all old foxes. No one gave help out of pure charity. Li Ming realized that explained Zheng Laogui's eagerness. Anya calculated. Failing a normal mission cost only 1,000 points. Spending 1,000 points to postpone his turn once was a bargain. But points were scarce in the Abyss. There was no steady income, and he was unwilling to part with them. After a moment's thought, Anya produced a small black orb, walked over, and handed it to Li Ming. When Li Ming took it, the orb's information popped up. Dark Crow Orb quality, excellent. Type, gem. Holder, Anya effect, allows the user to teleport. Usages, 3/3. Recharge time, 24 hours. Can be upgraded. Li Ming's eyes brightened. A space-type gem, very useful. You actually handed over your exclusive orb instead of giving him points? Zheng Laogui blinked. I don't need it now. I'm lending it. I'll recall it when he gets back. Anya said coldly and turned to leave. He wasn't worried about losing the item. As its holder, he could retrieve it unless Li Ming died in the mission world. If Li Ming died, Anya would accept the loss. Li Ming wasn't entirely honest with them either. He thought of his newly upgraded smuggling privilege. If he returned an item from a mission world, he could register it under his name. It was a one-time trick, but it would mean the Dark Crow Orb would have to bear his ownership when he brought it back. After that, this circle of reincarnators in the Abyss would never lend him anything again. Next time I come to the Abyss, I'll open a portal myself and sneak in. Avoid the return platform so I'm not discovered, he decided. Pay attention in the next mission. You must stay alive, Zheng Laogui said, pointing to a slightly more respectable building nearby. That's the exchange hall. He patted Li Ming on the shoulder and went to sit. Li Ming thanked him and walked toward the exchange hall. He hadn't forgotten one advantage of his status. As an Abyss-favored one, he got a 50% discount when trading within Abyss space. Chapter 157, Source Power, World Origin. Before entering the exchange hall, Li Ming hadn't expected much from the Abyss space. As he suspected, the exchange interface looked sparse until the Abyss notification chimed. Ding! Detecting Abyss-favored one status for this reincarnator, revealing hidden exchange items. Suddenly, the interface refreshed and dozens of new entries appeared, all glaringly prominent. Plane Shredder, insufficient points. Life Eradication Device, insufficient points. Zhuxian Sword, insufficient points. Zhuxian Sword, is that the Zhuxian Sword I'm thinking of? Li Ming muttered. He'd guessed the Abyss might be hiding something, but not this deeply. Those items weren't on the Reincarnation Spaces panel at all. Then he thought about it. If the Abyss didn't intend most Reincarnators to use these things, why put them on display to tempt everyone? Still, he watched. He only had so many points. He couldn't afford most of it. A moment later, he realized his balance had ticked up. He'd been at about 110,000 points. Now, it showed 130,000. In a short span, 2 sale items had gone, an evolution fluid and 25 sets of Mangkok 2 parts. After the 5% handling fee, he'd received 27,930 points, bringing his total to 138,486. He smiled grimly. Getting an S-rank mission only earned him 20,000 points, but selling goods had netted far more. Business could be faster than hard labor, especially if your costs were nearly zero. With that sum in his account, Li Ming scrolled through the list and wanted everything, but most items were either poor value or still too expensive. He decided to ask the Abyss for advice. "Abyss, any recommended exchange items for me?" he typed. The Abyss, which had been distant from other reincarnators for a while, answered quickly this time. It opened his current panel. Ding. Abyss, favored 1 panel open. Name Li Ming, strength 49998, constitution was 17 plus 1, agility 440, 439 plus spirit, bloodline Spider-Man. Skills fighting level 8, shooting level 9, firearms mastery level 7, John Wick combat template level 7, lightning chain level 7, Kamartage magic level 3, staff sword mastery level 7, source power absorption. Items: Gotham scepter, yellowed necklace. Points: Thurthrin 8486, detecting. Ding, recommendations as follows. Source power advancement level 1, 100,000 points. Source power application level 2, 140,000 points. Li Ming blinked. Source power? The name alone sounded important, but the price made his eyebrows climb. Source power's compatibility with all energy systems was tempting, yet level 1 for 100,000 points seemed extreme. Even an unweakened T102 Tyrant bloodline had cost only 80,000. Then he realized why. This option didn't appear in reincarnation space. It was unique to the Abyss, so its recommendation was targeted. He read the succinct descriptions. Source power advancement level 1, exclusive to Abyss favored 1, increases source power quantity and quality. Source power application level 2, exclusive to Abyss favored 1, teaches primary application methods for source power. The brief blurbs didn't say much, but the implications were huge. Source power could interface with every energy system, magic, mystical forces, dimensional energies, allowing Li Ming to wield things like Kamartage magic or even open mirror dimension techniques outside the Marvel world, though weaker than true natives. Advancement would improve the quality and quantity of his source power, boosting the strength of such spells. Application wouldn't hand him specific ready-made spells. Instead, it taught methods for creating spells, the programming behind the effects, so he could craft and adapt powers himself rather than relying on pre-packaged abilities. It was the difference between giving a man a fish and teaching him how to fish. Li Ming felt the Abyss wasn't simply trying to buff his combat stats. It was cultivating him. Curiosity got the better of him. "What does source power look like when it's fully upgraded?" he asked. The Abyss was uncharacteristically silent, as if weighing whether to tell him. Li Ming shivered. This was more than a simple upgrade. Then, ding, when source power is fully upgraded, it can transform into world origin. World origin. The phrase hit him like a blow. That was the treasure every faction in space fought over. The Abyss was offering him a path to it. His decision formed instantly. "How many Abyss-favored ones are there?" he asked. Ding, 1. "Were there any Abyss-favored ones before this?" he continued. Ding, no. "Do other spaces have similar skills?" Ding, no. Exclusive. Unique. The Abyss valued him far more than he'd thought. He hit exchange. Exchanging source power advancement level 1. Price, 100,000 points. Abyss favored 1 title discount, 50,000 points. Consumed, 50,000 points. Exchanging source power application level 2. Price, 140,000 points. Abyss favored 1 title discount, 70,000 points. Consumed, 70,000 points. Li Ming hardly expected the title to carry such a huge discount. He'd saved 120,000 points. He recalled how he'd earned the title. After leaving the John Wick world, when he'd eliminated the Reincarnators from the Heavenly Tao and All Gods factions. The Abyss apparently held a deep animus toward those groups. Knowledge flooded in. It wasn't an instant, polished spell set, but the core principles and frameworks he needed. He experimented. A crackling orb of electric light appeared in his palm, not simply his lightning chain skill, but a source power transformed version, roughly equivalent to a Law of 3 lightning chain. Even that casual test increased his spirit by 20 points, raising it to 67. Ming grinned. The source power upgrade broadened his capabilities against mystical opponents. He no longer relied only on lightning and portals. Source power application had taught him how to construct powers, and by absorbing more achievements from other worlds, he could refine and adapt them to his style. Infinite possibilities depended on how far he pushed it. He still had just over 10,000 points left, far from enough to upgrade the Gotham Scepter, so after a short moment he left the exchange center. A cluster of Abyss reincarnators watched him go, some whispering. "Newbies are bold, they even go to reincarnation space," one said enviously. "Anyone touched by the Abyss aura will be ostracized outside. They can't be attacked, but they'll be hated," another sighed. "Yeah, that's why we stay here." When he arrived in reincarnation space, Ming noticed a few wisps of dark purple, flowing light clinging to him, the same aura he'd seen in Abyss space. "It seems the Abyss still can't bear to part with me," he thought. It was a little showy to have the effect visible here. With a casual flick of his newly enhanced source power, he dispersed the wisps. They vanished as if they'd never been. Thanks to book friends 29084153216360, Kangjun Chajin and Shuhai Wuzhou for their monthly ticket support. Please, great masters, leave comments. Ha ha! Chapter 158, Faction Confrontation begins. Reincarnation space and Abyss space were worlds apart. The former was not only more comfortable, but also livelier. Like the main city in the online games of his previous life, hawkers and greetings filled the air. There were curses between rivals, of course, but no real fighting could break out inside the space. It was all rather boring. Ming had no intention of wasting time in the entertainment districts. The Eden, where everyone gathered, held no interest for him compared to the little dramas he'd been following, like Fish and Butch secretly hiding their identities from each other. He planned to reinforce his Gotham Scepter after his listed items sold. While waiting, he returned to the training ground. He knew the theory behind source power application, but his practical experience was still lacking. He hadn't been in a full-on battle yet, and he understood the importance of preparation. One could avoid fights, but not be helpless if one had to fight. Ming trained for 12 days. The remaining 20 sets of Mark II and Mark III strengthening fluid finally sold, bringing him 39,330 points. Together with the previous 18,486 points, he now had 57,816 points. If he remembered correctly, quality advancement on the Gotham Scepter cost 20,000 points per attempt, and reinforcement advancement cost 10,000. 50,000 points would let him upgrade several times. He took out the Gotham Scepter and felt a familiar surge of power. Even a 1% all-attribute bonus mattered now. Just as he was about to attempt a quality upgrade, a prompt appeared. Current equipment quality cannot be advanced by this method. Quality advancement has been replaced by skill advancement, costing 10,000 points per attempt. The Scepter's current quality was excellent. The next tier was epic. It seemed further improvements might depend on quests. Ming valued the Scepter's skills more and decided to try skill advancement. One attempt to test the waters. Skill advancement successful. Wrath of Gotham, active skill. Centered on the Scepter, enemies within a 75-meter radius enter an indiscriminate attack state for 20 minutes. Skill effect level 3. Target specific. Cooldown 48 hours. The range had increased and a skill level display had been added, so the effect had improved. Satisfied, Ming tried again. The range grew to 100 meters, duration stayed at 20 minutes, the skill level remained level 3. He hesitated, then pushed on. Another prompt flashed. Current equipment skill advancement has reached its limit, so an excellent Gotham Scepter could only have its skill upgraded so far. He switched to reinforcement advancement to boost the equipment's effects. Reinforcement advancement successful. Effect: 4 core attributes plus 2%, minimum plus 6. In Gotham's range, 4 core attributes plus 4%, minimum 12. The reinforcement was blunt but effective. Each reinforcement added 1% to his core attributes. That was like adding the strength of several more people to him. He reinforced it 2 more times, then stopped. The Gotham Scepter's attributes were now Gotham Scepter, quality, excellent. Type, Lord's Equipment, holder, Ming. Effects, agility +2, spirit +5, casting speed 10%. 4 core attributes before minimums 12, in Gotham's range +8%. Gem, Tear of the Goddess, stores 360 units of energy. Trait, sturdy, greatly increases durability. Skill, Wrath of Gotham, active. Centered on the Scepter, enemies within a 100-meter radius enter an indiscriminate attack state for 20 minutes. Skill effect level of 0.3, cooldown 48 hours. Skill, Gotham's Expectation. On the holder's death, revival in Gotham within his exclusive world, exempt from mission penalties. Requires 20,000 points and Gotham Regional Reputation at A, currently Est. Can be advanced. Ming calculated the bonuses. With the Scepter, he gained 199 strength, 12 constitution, 19 agility, and 17 spirit, and Wrath of Gotham was now active. Who would have thought a staff-like weapon would give such a big strength boost? Gandalf really hadn't been lying. The cost left him with only 7,816 points, but that was still more than most Reincarnators in Abyss space. He kept them as backup, nothing urgent to buy, and it wasn't cost-effective to spend them now. It made more sense to save for the next exchange for bloodline-strengthening fluid and profit from the price difference. Interestingly, even though Abyss space was under the Abyss's jurisdiction, his analysis privilege still wouldn't work. Ming dove back into the training ground to practice source power application. He could now manipulate the mirror dimension much more reliably. It consumed a lot of power, but the payoff was staggering. He had also gained control over the relative time flow of his exclusive worlds. He could slow or speed his subjective time versus those worlds by up to 3 times. For the Gotham world, because of battle suit processing needs, he left it at 1-1. For the Marvel world, fearing he might miss plot developments, he set it to 3-1. 3 days of his time equaled 1 day in the Marvel world. To prevent overstay, he set a maximum time difference. If he didn't visit an exclusive world for over a year, its time would stop. These were all backdoors the Abyss had opened for him. Abyss favored one, terrifying indeed. His strength was tied to Abyss power. The mission countdown ended quickly. Ming changed into the same outfit he'd worn in Abyss space, playing the pig to eat the tiger. He was still a newcomer, after all. He wondered which faction he'd encounter this time. Searching for faction confrontation world ID 19970829, connected. Teleportation gate opened. Countdown to entry, 1 minute. A request from the Abyss win. Ming blinked. How much favor did the Abyss hold? He smiled faintly. He never planned to lose a faction confrontation. After all, the Abyss had granted him so many privileges, and he had prepared thoroughly. Even if it meant breaking the mission world, he had to win. He stepped through the teleportation gate. After a blur of light and shadow, he found himself in a suburban nightscape, facing a road where headlights streaked toward a distant city. 3 other Abyss Reincarnators stood beside him, staring wide-eyed. "You're that newcomer?" one of them said. He'd spotted Ming before, in the square outside the exchange center. Before they could ask more, the Abyss's reminder sounded. Abyss faction effect activated, identity implantation. Don't implant! Refuse! Refuse! Get it out! Get it out! The 3 Abyss Reincarnators recoiled, shouting and desperately refusing the faction effect. Ming was puzzled. Identity implantation was supposed to be a great help to Reincarnators. Why were they reacting as if it were a monster? Why did you refuse? He asked. One of them, even more startled, asked back, You went through 3 worlds and nothing happened to you. Every time they implant an identity, some strange memory slips in, another muttered. It blurs who you are. The man tore at his hair and howled. This faction effect's a curse. It drives people insane. Suddenly, it all made sense. No wonder Abyss Reincarnators always seemed a little off, each with their own oddness. The psychological effects had physical manifestations, but the identity memories in Ming's head were like watching a movie. They didn't threaten his self-awareness at all. He realized this was another of the Abyss's schemes. If it couldn't outright kill Reincarnators, it might as well fracture their minds. Thanks to Ji Shiji, Yuosheng, Zisimpe, 271501922231, and long D cess for the monthly ticket support. Chapter 159. The opponent is the abyss. It's a sure win. This time Li Ming's implanted identity was a Chinese laborer in Mexico City. He had no special powers, and the memories the abyss provided held no useful clues. There were no major events tied to the identity, and he didn't recognize anyone from his own life. Still, Li Ming accepted the implant. He could have used Friday to fabricate an identity, but an implanted identity meant there really was a Li Ming in that world, a useful advantage against powerful plot characters. Especially with Terminators, if one suddenly appeared, it would first check any Reincarnator data it already had. The identities Abyss gave him always had one thing in common: no attachments. In short, he was an orphan with no friends. He could act freely. Another Abyss Reincarnator eyed him and asked cautiously, "Is this only your second mission?" Li Ming brushed it off easily. "I can't always be that honest, can I? Heh, this new guy's something. He even tricked Anya into letting him use the Dark Crow Orb." "Why are there 4 of us? Shouldn't 3 be enough?" The Abyss Reincarnators murmured among themselves until the system's voice rang out. "Ding, world list search initiated. Search successful. Current world already linked to other spaces, already explored. Main mission, protect Daniela Ramos for 7 days. She must not die. Current world factions, main god, heaven, abyss. Another protection mission?" one of them said. "Jialun, what are you going to do?" "What else can I do? What I always do." Jialun shrugged. Pale-skinned and sharp-featured, he looked the weakest, but gave off the air of being the strongest. "Are you actually going to try this time, Luis?" Though smiling, the other Abyss Reincarnators subtly hemmed Louis in. "Hey, don't get the wrong idea. I'm not switching to work for Abyss or anything," Louis protested quickly, and then pointed at Li Ming. "I'm asking him, what are you going to do?" Li Ming saw the finger and smiled. "Of course I'll follow the seniors. I just want to survive." The 3 veterans liked that attitude. It was one thing to be a newcomer. It was worse to be a newcomer who acted on their own. This is a 3-faction confrontation and a protection mission. Usually, missions are split 2 versus 1, Jialun said, analyzing the situation. They were veterans and knew faction confrontation rules well. "You 2 go find where the main god faction is. I'm going to grab something to eat. I've been in Abyss a long time. I haven't had a proper meal in ages." Jialun bared his fangs in a grin and walked to a quieter area. "He's a vampire?" Li Ming asked Louis. Louis nodded, clearly annoyed that Jialun was dodging the work. "You can exchange for blood in the space, but it doesn't compare to fresh human blood," he said. "Jialun drinks human blood for fun." Li Ming frowned. Louis waved it off. "Don't worry, he's a 3rd-tier reincarnator, but we're in the same faction. Harming each other gets punished." "Why do we need to find the main god faction?" Li Ming asked again. "Because the prompt listed main god first. That usually means they're the strongest. They'll be our opponents," Louis replied. Li Ming nodded and followed. He checked his mission feed more closely. Main mission, protect Daniela Ramos for 7 days. She must not die. Confrontation mission, kill hostile reincarnators. Current number, 13. Kills, 0. Mission evaluation based on number of kills. Faction protection disabled. Confrontation mission priority, highest. His mission had an extra task, kill 13 hostile reincarnators. The maximum reincarnation squad size was 5, and Abyss had explicitly disabled faction protection. In other words, Abyss considered all other reincarnators targets and was ready to clear them out. Li Ming pulled up thumbnails from the memory library to learn about the main mission's target. Terminator, Dark Fate. The plot was typical. Killer machines traveling through time to eliminate specific people while human protectors fought back. Skynet had been replaced by Legion and John Connor by Daniela Ramos, but that change didn't alter the danger much. Usually only one Terminator was sent, no huge threat to Li Ming on its own. The confrontation mission had the higher priority, though, so scoring plenty of kills mattered more than the success or failure of the main mission. It was 2020. Li Ming had Friday hack the local communication satellites and sweep for unusual arrivals. It wasn't long before he found his targets and found a little chaos to exploit. On the other side of Mexico City, a group had appeared. Ding, world list search initiated. Search successful. Current world already linked to other spaces, already explored. Main mission, protect Daniela Ramos for 7 days. She must not die. Confrontation mission, kill reincarnators from other factions. Current number 9, kills 0. Mission evaluation based on number of kills. Current world factions, Heaven, Main God, Abyss. Heaven faction effect enabled, can receive 1 Heaven's blessing. Faction allows a single request within its scope. Effect depends on Reincarnator tier. There were 5 of them, 3 in modern clothing, 1 in a wizard's robe, and 1 in a black Shinigami-style uniform with wooden clogs. Ming recognized the last immediately. Someone had exchanged for Shinigami powers, though which Zanpakuto he wielded was unknown. The man in the Shinigami uniform smirked. Abyss? He chuckled. I didn't expect to meet Abyss out here. Looks like this mission's a sure win, haha. Kimura, look at the factions. A middle-aged man in a black trench coat and sunglasses warned. There are 3 factions this time. A protection kill confrontation with 3 factions usually means 2 factions share the same mission, the trench-coated man continued. And the prompt lists Main God before us. That means Abyss is our teammate. Kimura's smile froze. No one liked encountering Abyss. They not only sold space, they were notorious for selling out teammates. Our teammate is Abyss? This is bad, someone muttered. On the other side of the city, another group's feed pinged. Ding, world list search initiated. Search successful. Current world already linked to other spaces, already explored. Main mission, kill Daniela Ramos within 7 days. Confrontation mission, kill reincarnators from other factions. Current number, 9. Kills 0. Mission evaluation based on number of kills. Current world factions, Main God, Heaven, Abyss. Main God faction effect enabled. For every teammate who dies, the strength of remaining teammates increases by 10%. Heaven's teammate is Abyss, one of them said, eyes widening. It's a sure win, another replied, a grim smile curling their lips. Across the city, alliances were being reassessed and distrust sown. Abyss was a wild card, an ally to some, a betrayer to others. For Ming, it didn't matter who trusted whom. The mission priorities were clear. Get kills, survive, and use whatever advantage he could to climb the confrontation scoreboard. Chapter 160, You Can Call Me the King of Gotham. The Main God faction also consisted of 5 people. All of them looked fierce and ruthless. Janet, find the target's location, the leader ordered. He was a burly, European-looking man called Hobbs. After hearing the mission briefing, he spoke without hesitation. All right. Janet pulled out a laptop and began searching. The other 3 spread out, keeping watch in different directions. Professional reincarnation operatives with a clear division of labor. There are no supernatural reactions in this world. It's a modern setting, and there's no sign of special tech yet, Janet reported, fingers flying over the keys. Search results for Daniela Ramos show 3,753, no, 3,047, and the number keeps increasing. Hobbs, someone's tampering with the online info, one of the others warned. It seems people from Heaven are moving fast, Hobbs said without panicking. Who's within 3 kilometers of our location? A convenience store cashier, Janet answered. Hobbs pointed to 2 team members. Go find her. Talk. Don't use force. The 2 left immediately. Keep an eye on the surroundings for anyone suspicious, Hobbs added. Janet nodded. They all knew the rule. The landing point would be close to a plot character. If someone hadn't tampered with the data, Heaven would quickly locate the nearest Daniela Ramos and find them. Hobbs was using his teammates as bait, sending people 3 kilometers away to see if Heaven reacted. If Heaven struck, they would reveal itself. No one in the group objected. That was just how the Main God faction operated. They were mission first, survival of the fittest types. The Abyss reincarnators were different, more lax, willing to sell missions or hide, but reliable in their own way. May my lord forgive you, one team member murmured. He had been posing as a priest, speaking to a small group of believers before slipping into a nearby hotel room to change into civilian clothes. The team gathered and exchanged reports. Mechanic, what did you find? Hobbs asked. I checked around. Someone at the station said Daniela Ramos is a factory worker, the priest reported. She's a 20-year-old woman living with her father and younger brother. Nothing special, no enemies, still working as usual. The mechanic, an unremarkable middle-aged man, stood. Prepare for action. We're going to the factory. What about the Abyss teams? Someone asked. After all, the Abyss and the main god faction were both active in this world. Ignore them. Don't let them get close, Hobbs said. Everyone knows how the Abyss operates. At the same time, Hobbs allowed himself a private hope. If anyone from the Abyss tries to make contact, let them come over. May you unexpectedly encounter the Abyss? Someone joked, using the Reincarnator's catchphrase. Even Hobbs cracked a rare laugh. After all the planning, it's finally our turn. They didn't have to wait long. Captain, they're here. Who? The Abyss Reincarnators. Hobbs's grin vanished. The Abyss team had already changed positions and disguised themselves, yet they'd still found them quickly. The Abyss had tricks. Jielin's Echo Bat was one of them. On the trip over, Louis had explained to Li Ming how the Abyss specialized in finding people. The Echo Bat is used to track reincarnators, Louis said quietly, pointing to a small bat-shaped device leading the way. Jielin spent a lot of points on it. Don't tell the others, this is one of the Abyss's bargaining chips. Li Ming listened. It wasn't easy for the Abyss to recruit newcomers. The more people entered, the longer it would be before full faction conflict. He followed Louis to the small hotel where the main god faction had been staying, watching the 3 main god operatives present. They were elites, certainly stronger than the ragtag Abyss team. You are very weak, Hobbs sneered after studying Louis for a long moment. Louis didn't flinch. In the space, victory isn't decided by brute strength alone. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see us right now. Hobbs had no answer. If the Abyss intended malice, they would already have struck. Stop the nonsense. Tell me what you want. 30,000 points. Win this faction confrontation for us, and the victory is yours, Hobbs proposed bluntly. You think our lives are worth that much? Jialun, who had arrived late, replied coolly. Hobbs' expression darkened. Jialun was stronger than Louis, and the ask was higher than Hobbs expected. Fail a faction mission, and the penalty is 5,000 points. You've got 4 people. 20,000 is enough. Jialun sneered. So we're supposed to work for free? Hobbs tried another angle. We don't want to fight. Worst case, we go to heaven. They're our overt allies. The main god operatives subtly closed ranks, readying themselves. Jialun smiled. If the Abyss didn't have some mutual destruction tricks up its sleeve, you wouldn't still be negotiating with us. 24,000. Hobbs backed down. He knew that a confrontation could lead to mutual annihilation. The Abyss could hide or sell the mission and survive. The main gods couldn't afford that. 28,000, Jialun countered. 25,000, and don't push your luck, Hobbs said finally. You have 4 people. That's your problem. All right. Jialun spread his hands. The extra 1,000 goes to me. Any objections? No one objected. The deal was struck on the spot. Hobbs collected 5,000 points from each of his operatives, then paid the Abyss team 6,000 apiece and set aside 7,000 for Jialun. Everyone assumed the mission payout would more than cover it. This was a safe transaction. No one believed the Abyss would take the money and run. There were fewer options for completing missions these days. Li Ming received 6,000 points as well. He pocketed them with a satisfied smile. On his way out, he discreetly left some nanobots and surveillance spells behind with the main god operatives, minor gifts he assumed they'd appreciate. All right, let's part here. Go your own way, just get out of my sight, Hobbs said as the groups dispersed. The Abyss team headed toward the city square. Jialun waved as though they were done. Wait. Li Ming's voice stopped them. Newcomer? What's your name? What do you want? Jialun asked impatiently. Li Ming asked, calm but probing, what exactly happened to the Abyss to make it like this? Jialun rolled his eyes. Go back to the Abyss and ask someone who cares. Li Ming's tone lost the nervous edge of a newcomer and hardened. Answer carefully, or you might not get back to the Abyss. Jialun's face changed. He was about to lunge when reality itself shifted. The street under the Abyss trio twisted and rolled. Buildings peeled away from the ground and flipped upside down into the sky as if space had folded, and yet pedestrians and cars continued, oblivious. Jialun stared at Li Ming as the gravity of the scene deepened. Li Ming had changed too. He was no longer the awkward new recruit. He wore a tailored, noble suit and held an ornate Gotham scepter, every inch the part of someone with power. Who are you? Jialun demanded. Li Ming smiled, cool and confident. You can call me His Excellency, the King of Gotham.